Rookie Republican.
Well, apparently, school students, people that he went to school with said that he tried to, and they confirmed that he tried to join like the gun club, and he was like a horrendous shot.
And just evil, apparently.
Yeah, but I mean, like, number one, I don't ever buy that. Like, whenever people interview like people in like that went to high school with this person or whatever, number one, there's always a possibility that those people are just making shit up because they want their 15 minutes of fame, or that they play up that they knew the person better than they did. And then number two, hindsight's 2020, and I feel like a lot of times people are like, yeah, he was always a little off, and it's like, I can look at that guy and know that he was always a little off, but I mean, but even still, like, knowing that this person tried to assassinate a fucking president changes the way that you look at your memories, right? I mean, it drastically changes the way that you recollect things because you have this new knowledge that you didn't have then. So I don't know that I ever really put much faith or stock in like people's opinions to like the TV or whatever. So like evidence wise, even if this guy was a quote unquote right winger, at best he was like a third positionist accelerationist, like you're saying. Like he wasn't a fucking MAGA Republican. He wasn't a Rhino Republican. He wasn't a Never Trumper Lincoln Project guy. Like if this guy was a quote unquote,
nah, he was a Never Trumper for sure.
But the guy, but hold on. Here's the other thing.
Literally, he was, but like he wasn't like a centrist.
No, we're gonna get into this. But hold on. Like, you're forgetting this. You're forgetting a big thing, Fabian. You're forgetting a big thing. Remember, before the primary started, what did the Democrats tell their people to do? They said,
I'm not forgetting
register as Republicans and
moving.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah,
no, I'm not forgetting that at all. I was saying if this guy was a Republican. Like, I absolutely understand that it was a closed primary state, and that like it's very, very likely. Maybe not. I don't know what percentage likelihood it is, but it's certainly probable that he registered to vote for Nikki Haley.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if he was like Mitt Romney's biggest fan?
It's just, I mean, it would be hilarious. I mean, it wouldn't.
Diddled by Mitt Romney, that would happen. That.
I mean, like maybe, but let's be honest.
The chances of it are very low. I agree.
Right, like he wasn't like this guy is too much political rhetoric about violence, and he's a threat to our democracy.
So I'll shoot him in the face.
Right, yeah, like at best, if he was what you would consider colloquially a right winger, he was a fucking like Nazbol accelerationist. Third positionist that's like probably like an environmental extremist and like a leftist economically, but like right wing was like save our race and save the white race, and he's not, and even then that'd be weird because the kid was Jewish, but who knows?
Nice haircut.
I'm not going to believe half the shit that comes out.
Yeah,
pretty boy toyed right there.
Look, it's short, professional,
and then also
right? Here for
real
business.
quick. People talking about him donating to Act Blue, that just as much as registering as Republican is meaningless, so is that, because he did it on an inauguration day, which just as easily could have been a lost bet. Like it kind of looks like there's a part of me that thinks that like he had a bet with somebody, and they were like, and he's like, oh no, they're gonna win, and then they're like,
no speculation there. He had a bet. He knows.
No, there's no evidence. Look, there's no evidence that he lost. I mean,
there's no evidence one way or the other. What I'm saying is that isn't evidence that he's a leftist.
I'm
saying it also could be that he donated $15 because it was a lost bet, or because he was 17 and thought he was a lefty then and then changed.
Yes, you're right. Anything's possible. It's possible.
It's also possible he took his dick back and called himself Sally, but anything's
possible. It's possible. But I just want to, in my opinion, I think that him donating money to Act Blue is better evidence than him registering as a Republican in the state of Pennsylvania. Because in the state of Pennsylvania,
I agree,
it's a closed primary. And so if let's say you hated Trump, for example, you would want to be a registered Republican. I know people in Pennsylvania who are the most left-wing people you've ever fucking met. They are registered as Republicans in Pennsylvania, specifically so they vote against Trump and then they vote blue in the general.
We saw all this with like the Bernie bros, right? Like there was so many people that were denying the existence. Like the left was like, The Bernie bros aren't real. They were always Republican. They just didn't want Hillary Clinton, and that's why they voted Democrat in the Democratic primary for Bernie. And that's why, because how could you possibly support Bernie Sanders and support Trump? It's impossible. So these must have been all Republicans that registered as Democrats so that they could vote for Bernie. And then at the same time, you had Democrats that were intentionally voting for Trump early on in 2016 because they were like, oh my God, if Trump wins, Hillary is going to demolish him, right? Like, the concept of like who they register for isn't a great metric, but also again, the day after inauguration, voting a small amount of money also isn't a good.
None of the metrics that we have. I'm following the conversation, gang, but none of the evidence that we have about the shooter is enough to really make any claims. There's plenty of enough.
Yeah, he definitely had it going for sure.
Let me throw this out here real quick. All right, so if the FBI isn't lying, which is a gargantuan fucking if, right?
Yeah, because we found out so much about Vegas.
Yeah, right. We found out so much about Vegas, right? But if the FBI isn't lying through their teeth, and this 20-year-old really didn't have a Twitter account, a Facebook account, an Instagram account, didn't have anything other than maybe a Discord and a Telegram, that's the most right-wing shit ever. Like, that's the most Groyper accelerationist third positionist shit ever. Is that like he only had a Telegram and like, you know, like wasn't on Facebook or Twitter because he just got censored or kicked off at some point because he said wild shit constantly and was like, fuck that, I don't have a Twitter. Because it's mind-blowing to me that we believe that this person that was politically motivated enough to attempt to assassinate a president also wasn't online and involved in like arguing about politics ever. Like how the fuck do you get radicalized by MSNBC happens. Rachel Maddow? Like, what are you talking about? It happens, but it's a fucking
two things.
Coinky-dink for sure.
First of all, it happens. Second of all, he absolutely could have been arguing under like anonymous pseudonyms, like a lot of us here do, right? I mean, it's very possible.
Right, well, they just got into his phone.
Hey, Corey and I have no pseudonym.
He could have
Corey and I put our names out there.
Yeah, he could have deleted it. Yeah, some people put their names out there. Some people don't. I think that's fine. I don't know.
Some people are not.
I agree.
There's those that let the balls hang low and those that don't.
Yeah, sure.
The only reason I don't use my name is because no one can pronounce it. So,
all right, that's a fair reason. I definitely can't. I have no idea what it is, but I already know.
You know, it reminds me of
Ali Muhammad.
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of like what is that movie like it's a comedy movie where they go after to kill their bosses or whatever. And he's in the car and he's like
horrible bosses.
He's talking to the
horrible bosses, yeah.
Yeah, horrible bosses, yeah. And he's talking to the car and he's like, what's your real name, Greg? And he's like, and it's this giant long ethnic name. He's like, that's a fucking mouthful. I'm gonna call you Greg. He's like immediately turned around. He was like, no, I want to respect you and call you by your real name. And then he was like, okay, no, fuck that. It's Greg again. Like, that's too much for me to fucking say.
Okay.
Hello all. This is the Revelry Roundtable, which we have Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got a great group of guests here. I'm really excited to have this conversation. I mean, I don't know, it's a weird conversation. It's a weird few days. But I'm glad that you stopped by.
Everything has been off since Harambe was killed, let's be honest.
And with a squirrel jumped in the accelerator.
the times we shifted into a new world after that. All right.
Okay. All right. A different track on the timeline. All right. Let's go. Let's introduce all these amazing individuals, and then we'll get started. So, my friend Electroid. Oh, I didn't know someone commented on a hairdo, and I didn't know who it was. But first, Electroid. Looking nice. I like your long hair though, but like this is nice too.
Yeah, gotta do what I gotta do. It prevents it from getting uncomfortable and unprofessional looking. It's just that's what the man says I have to do.
You were looking like a goddamn hippie. They're like, I know. Trust him?
Exactly. Right?
Socialist.
See, the man needs to know that I'm his servant, right? That's how that works.
Well, if you make enough money, they don't care what you look like.
Well, I'm not there quite yet. I'm looking forward to
the new look, Lactoid.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I think that a lot of stuff has happened. Obviously, when I first heard, it was very shocking what happened, and yeah, it'll be hopefully an interesting conversation. I'm sure one that may get very heated. And you can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
Absolutely. I think the other thing is that like any white guy with long brown hair, right? It was like, after this weekend,
right?
So,
Lactoid, you went from looking like a hippie, lefty, to looking like you're married to a black or Hispanic congresswoman that constantly talks about white people being the problem.
I would take that. Well, hold on, white people being the problem? Because I thought I'd be married to a black like congresswoman who was very much about like BLM socks.
No. Like the CRT obsessed Congress and Senate women that are
no. I'm the
always
fantasy.
Happen to have a white husband.
Yeah. I'd be the fantasy of one of these, right? But like Candace Owens before the recent shit.
A specific one you look like. There's a specific one. Have you seen her boyfriend? He looks just like.
Do I look like AOC's boyfriend?
Yeah,
you look like AOC's boyfriend, Admiral Gibbs. Like Admiral Gibbs.
AOC couldn't handle this much, man. Let me tell you.
Admiral Gibbs looks like AOC's boyfriend. Not Lactoid at all. Don't say it's about Lactoid. Like
I've been told I look like JD Vance, and it bothers me.
I
don't like it. I don't like it. So don't call me that.
How has nobody heard of JD Vance? He literally wrote Hillbilly Elegy. Like that was such a popular book. Like, I don't know why people are like, who's this guy? And then they say that, and then they're like, huh?
I've told you my opinion on books, man. It's only the women and the gays that are reading.
Okay, well, that movie. You watch movies, right? It's a fairly well.
Let's move on. Oh my god, guys, let's move on. Sorry. But Lactoid, I will say that like only like a little bit of facial structure, but like you have like a much stronger chin. You've got like a solid manly chin. He does not. Like that's why he's got that beard now. But yeah, thanks so much. Next we have our friend Scott. Scott, thanks for coming back. Yeah, I don't know. Say things.
I'm Scott. You can find me at Fabian Liberty on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter too, but I'm censored as fuck, so it kind of just doesn't matter.
What on Twitter?
X, whatever. I mean, dude, fuck X is X is such a fucking stupid fucking name. Like X is just for a second. X is dumb, not because it doesn't sound cool or anything, but because it is impossible to work well in search results. Right? Like you can't put X as a platform. Like it just doesn't work. It sucks. Regardless. But I've been gone for a little while. My grandfather died. So I've just been kind of dealing with that and family stuff. It was complicated. He was a very, very flawed man, but also a great man in a lot of ways. But I had to come back, especially with all of this craziness that's going on. Like it's absolutely the time to not the time to be gone. So I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to discuss this topic. And that's kind of why I suggested it. So yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for your assistance. And our condolences to you and your family. Sorry about that, your loss.
It happens.
To our friend Corey. Corey, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. Always grateful to be here. And my heart goes out to Scott because coincidentally and sadly, although not the same outcome, but I had a close call with my own grandmother in terms of she fell. She's 91. She's now in the hospital recovering. Thankfully, she didn't break her hip. She just fractured it. But she's confused, and it's hard to keep the medical equipment in her. But my heart goes out to you, and I'm glad that you're back, though. All that said, thank you. I also agree with Scott and Lactoid in terms of a lot of stuff that has happened. It's shocking, a lot of craziness. And so with that, for the next 2 hours, I'm looking forward to talking about House of the Dragon. You can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84. You can find me on X, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. It's Corey Campbell. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have our friend Wick. We haven't had Wick on for like a year and a half, maybe, I think. It's been a very long time. But Wick is one of our MVP, our star guests. Been here for a part of the crew for a very long time. Been a good friend and doing well on his own channel. So we love to see it. Thanks for being here, Wick. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, friend.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. So as if you hadn't heard, Wick TV, you can find me on YouTube, Wick at Wick-TV, and on Twitch and Kick at Wick TV. WHICK TV. Yeah, a lot has happened. I've had some discussions with some people. I'm looking to have more discussions with more people, but I think that we are at an inflection point in this country. I think that we are at a tipping point when it comes to politics, and what happens over the course of the next few months is going to echo for a long time. And so, yes, I'm here to talk about it and discuss it, and yep, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Shit, I was going to say something. I'll remember it later. Next, we have our friend Ali. Look at me in the center, gotten more handsome. And also, like, mysteriously Muslim. But but Ali, thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me. I go by Sociologic on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. A lot has happened. A lot to think about. I'm just so glad he wasn't an Arab. I gotta slide that one real quick. I'm just so that was such a the one point for the boys. One point for the boys, you know. But with that, I'm looking forward to getting to the discussion with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I cheering that he wasn't black. Holy fuck, man. Like, the conversation would be completely different. We know it, right? And I think it's interesting that, white people don't have to worry about that. They don't have to have that kind of anxiety. It's interesting how that works, right? But Wick, I remember what I was gonna say. Wick Dash TV? Did someone take?
Yeah, someone was on YouTube. I had to use a dash. I don't know why, but
oh my god, that's
it sucks, but it is what it is. But yeah, if you just Google Wick, WHICK, you'll find me. Okay.
All right, cool. But yeah, oh god, I'm only like now just taking in Gibbs.
Metaphorically, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Gibbs is actually a man of peace. I think, despite everything, he's actually a man of peace.
Big advocate.
He just likes the aesthetics of a bomber. But Gibbs,
bomber. Listen, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I have been wearing the Boogaloo uniform almost every time I come on these panels. I just now embraced showing the body armor, which coincidentally Apache flew by my house 5 seconds ago. So I'm thinking maybe you Democrats are sitting here planning on taking out more conservatives today. I don't know. A little concerned. Also, as a Hispanic, I'm very glad it wasn't a Hispanic guy. But if I had to pick one group, I'm real sad that it wasn't. I wish it wasn't an Arab guy, because my oil prices would be going way up in my stocks if it was right now. Because Iran, they would be done.
Thank you.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't. So yeah, I'm screwed. Don't buy Exxon this week.
You're fantastic. Okay, let's move on. We have our friend Counter Points. All right, beloved friend of the channel, back with us. I think just because it's an auspicious day here. But we got him back 2 weeks in a row. I'm very grateful to have you here, friend.
No, I'm very happy to be here. Excited to get into it. I'm a little tired. I was running around town yesterday, but overall pretty excited. It's obviously weird to be living through so many historical events in such a short life, but at least it gives us good content. So I'm excited about that aspect of it. If you're into science fiction or Warhammer, then go ahead and check out my main channel, Counterpoints 40K. If you're into debate, check out my second channel, Counterfire, also known as Counterpoints Coliseum. You can find it under that search verbiage. And then finally, I do have a ill-attended to essay channel that's linked down in the description of both of those channels as well. But yeah, happy to be here. Looking forward to the content.
Thank you. Next, we have a brand new person from a friend Tom's community. But Ghosty, I believe is how it's pronounced, right? Ghosty?
Yes, Ghosty.
Yes. Well, we're happy to have you here. Introduce yourself to me and the rest of the audience.
Okay. Ghosty, as Prime already mentioned, it's spelled with a 6 and 2 I's at the end, and kind of newer to YouTube and streaming and stuff. So yeah, not much to say, but I'm excited to be here and talk about this crazy time we're living in.
Okay, thanks so much. Last but not least, our Dark Lord and Savior Doobie is here. Really excited, more patriotic than ever. I love the background, actually, it really works for you. But how are you, friend?
I'm doing well, thanks for having me.
So yeah, I got overexcited. Invited a little bit more people than I should have. But I really want to talk to you all. Wick was the last one. Whatever. Wick was like, but like I was excited to have you. So
anyway. Well, damn, I see where I rank. Go ahead.
Right. But I'm glad you're all here. So we have a established topic here, and it's about what you can guess. But before we move into that, I wanted to hit up our friend Counterpoints just for a little bit, and ask you about what seems to be a massive security failure for this Secret Service. Now, you've been a cop and in the military, and so you're basically a one-man army, right? So people shouldn't fuck with them. But I imagine you're closest we have to an expert, so I'm going to ask you stuff. So let me lay out what I would think as a layperson. I've had a lot of time to think about the Secret Service, like for years. I've put thought into the Secret Service, like honestly. Not because I
how to overcome them, how to get around their. What are we doing?
Your idea, I guess.
Now we know why you were pushing DEI this whole time. I see your long game.
Oh my god! But counterpoints. It would seem to me that in a rally like this, that the rooftops would be a covered area, right? That just like on the White House, they have snipers like on the rooftops. That for this type of area, you'd have that covered. And like, let's say if you were in a like a plaza, right? With buildings on all sides of you, right? Like, I guess the Secret Service would do an assessment of like, hey, there's a lot of windows here. Can we actually cover all these windows, right? If not, maybe let's not have it here. But it seemed like in this case, it was out in open field, actually pretty easy to secure, but still there was holes in the security and something happened. So, like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the things that make the most amount of sense we can't confirm right now. One of the details that was interesting to have been alleged is that Trump was allegedly requesting additional Secret Service security that had been denied by the DOJ. That's not verifiable at this time. Then also there was a post just a few hours ago that was saying that local law enforcement had a SWAT team, quick reaction force, that was actually in those buildings, and they technically were supposed to be outside, but because of the heat and because of their gear, they actually went inside. There's another report that came out basically saying that the shooter was spotted in the roof area. One of the cops actually took a picture about 25 minutes before the shooting actually occurred of the gentleman being in that location. But by the time they directed a local law enforcement person to that location, the guy had disappeared and law enforcement no longer had visual contact with him. And I think looking at the angles, you can kind of understand why law enforcement and why the Secret Service used the assets the way that they did. They did have a, you're talking about counter snipers. They had a counter sniper team immediately behind the president, basically overviewing all of those buildings. There was a second team that was kind of lower by the balconies, and they actually had a decent view of where the sniper was. So utilizing those resources, we would have to verify all the details that I just gave you. But if you're working with a limited team, the truth is that no security is 100%. And oftentimes, part of the reason why I have a lot of anxiety when going in public places with tons of people is because I know how vulnerable public events are to terrorism, mass shootings, cars, VBIEDs, IEDs, all that kind of stuff. So realistically, I think it was an issue of manpower, if I had to guess.
Manpower. But it's
they
again
needed like another 5 or 6 people to be on those rooftops, at least.
Yeah. Okay. You think it might be a manpower issue, and no one can say at this point, right? None of us on the outside can say.
Well, manpower. Okay, sorry, real quick. Manpower, deployment, and also normalcy bias. So manpower, basically having enough people to deploy them, deploying them correctly, because the truth is that they probably had enough local law enforcement in order to put a couple of guys on top of where the shooter was. And then the final thing is normalcy bias. So a lot of people, when something serious is going down, it takes them a few seconds, if not 30 seconds to like a minute to realize like, oh shit, something actually serious is happening, because they're in denial that something real could actually happen. And I think that also explains some of the reaction times that you saw from Secret Service agents and law enforcement on the ground.
Okay.
Can I add to this slightly?
Please, go ahead.
So a lot of Republicans and people, I don't know, Republicans is probably the bad word. Just a lot of people in general have been like kind of like looking at one of the sniper teams, and being like, why did they take so long? Did they why was their reaction time so slow? And so obviously there's a lot of speculation on that specific thing. But I do want to say that it appears from their kit that they were likely the long range team and the other team was the mid range team. So even though we can talk about there might have been a communication failure, there might have been whatever, but people are like, why did they wait to shoot? Or even though it looked like they had a beat on them, their equipment was set up for likely more than like 600 meters. And the other, it's like when you do this and you have multiple sniper teams, you have different equipment for people that are looking at buildings and places much farther away with optics that are really, really sensitive to movement and are not designed to shoot, because he was really close, which is also kind of makes the whole situation like, how the fuck did you let that happen? Because he's like within viewing distance of like people, and he wasn't camouflaged or anything, and we don't know about like how he got on the fucking roof, and there's a lot of questions and a lot of stinky things there, or that need to be answered. But I just want to point that out as well, that like that team that everyone is like, they hesitated by a couple seconds. They might not have even have hesitated. It might have actually been the difficulty of like getting him in the sights and getting the shot correct because of their equipment.
And backing Scott up real quick, just to expand, is like, you're talking about adrenaline. You're talking about trying to find the target. You're talking about trying to make sure it's not a friendly, like it's some stupid yokel cop who's climbing up there to look for something, and making sure that you're not shooting a cop. And then also the target, the roof that he was on, if I'm looking at it correctly, actually was slanted. So the shooter basically only needed to expose his head and the rifle. So you're talking about hitting something that's basically the size of a basketball from 150 yards away, which, people who shoot rifles, like, they might think that that's a small distance. But for a layperson to put that into context, that still is a football field and a half away. So, and you're also talking about like, somebody was asking like, oh, well, these are supposed to be the best of the best. Is it really possible that they choked or they fucked up? And my answer is yes, because you're talking about the most extreme scenario possible. You are talking about trying to take a life in order to save people's lives. And not only that, it's the president of the United States. I can't think of something more intense than that scenario.
I mean, it is their job, but things. Communication.
I think
I just wanted to point out the optics specifically, because I think it is important. That counterpoints. When you go to the range, right? It's two targets that are 300 meters, and then a couple 250s, a couple 125s, and like a couple of 75s, right? Like, and you're doing that with iron sights. You're not doing so 150 seems like a close distance, and it is for a good shot with the right optics, but with optics that are intended to be long range, like it might take another second or two. And this all, from the first shot, supposedly timelines, we don't really know. It could be 30 seconds if he fired at police or not, right? But it is plausible that it was just difficult to do the shot that quickly.
I just don't know why.
Sorry to stomp on you, Ghost.
No, it's fine. If you look at the layout of the area, though, I just don't know why it was possible for him to get on the roof just in the first place. It's like you said, like 150, 200 meters away. It was broad daylight, and it was the closest building to. So I just feel like they should have been watching that in the first place. I know people were like pointing him out before. I don't know how soon it was before the shots went off, if it was like immediately, but I just think it was a major fuck up that he even got on the roof in the first place.
Actually, I saw reports that they actually think he might have camped up there overnight. So he was waiting before the rally goers even got there for Trump.
I mean,
still, like,
maybe he parachuted down.
Well, I was gonna wait till opening,
probably,
but since we're all through this now,
supposedly, hold on, real quick. Supposedly, this was a police staging area, and supposedly they sweep the roof. So it's pretty unlikely, unless they're just lying about that.
All right, I was gonna wait till an opening.
That's how that went. Also, we know that he left his dad and told his dad, "Hey, I'm going to the shooting range." Right. So his father would have to be lying, and the police would have to be lying simultaneously about that, and that is possible, but not pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever heard out of y'all. Like, I mean, you're telling me they couldn't get some $40 drones up there, like for like a couple hours to watch all these things? Like,
bro, this is for sure.
This is all cope. Like, I mean, like, yeah, it took them a few seconds. Oh, the distance, but I could shoot 150 yards like iron sight pretty easily. Imagine if I had a decent scope on there, plus like years of combat training. Like, this is just. I'm sorry, I'm not buying what you're selling. Like, not the shooter
specifically.
Not the shooter. The counter snipers took so long. I mean, there's so many holes in all this that, like, the only thing you can look at, like, I hate to be the crazy conspiracy theorist, but I'm going to be the crazy.
I want to give you enough rope to hang yourself.
Yeah, I like don't want to be the crazy conspiracy theorist, but like when I'm sitting here and I've already gone online and like and people are going, oh, registered Republican, oh, he works for BlackRock, oh, he's over here doing this, he's over here doing that, it took this team this long, there was this many reports, all this reports, both his parents are saying, like, I don't know about y'all, but something smells real bad, and it smells like
what you're doing.
Hold on, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish.
I want to let him finish, and I want to ask him a follow-up question.
I'm gonna be done here in 1 second. I'm almost done. And then on top of that, we got $40. We can't put $40 worth of drones like over a building. That's ridiculous. And then on top of that, there's just something smells here, right? And it smells when last week Biden said we have to put Trump in a bullseye. I mean, and this week he gets shot at. No collusion, no equal thing at all.
Yes,
I mean,
I love you. Yeah. I love you so much.
I mean, we can keep going down the rabbit hole, but
So
I'm just throwing some things out there. Smell fishy.
I'm going to summarize some of the things that you said because I know that if I ask you specific follow-up questions, you're probably going to dance around a little bit.
Sure.
So, BlackRock.
I love tap dancing.
Hold on. No. Give me some rope. So, BlackRock, the DEI people, they put their Manchurian Candidate shooter in a commercial for teachers' pension funds 8 years ago. Then they recruited him in order to shoot Donald Trump. Then they called up the Secret Service and the local law enforcement. Well, whatever, 4 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever. Then they call the local law enforcement and the SWAT teams and the Secret Service, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna shoot Donald Trump in the face. Go ahead and stand back and stand by." And then Biden was like, "Hey, you know what would be really funny is if I tweeted about this before we shot this guy in the face. So I'm going to tweet about putting a bullseye on him." So does that seem like a plausible series of events to you?
Well, when you say it like that.
Yeah, but like, listen. Here's the crazy.
Do we know which kind of gun that Hunter bought? I mean, we should be tracing that. It could be.
So, like, let me throw one other at you. Hey, has the truth ever been stranger than fiction? I'm just saying, I don't want to hear all this bullshit and then go, oh.
Is there a narrative version of that doesn't sound retarded?
Yes, I can give you the narrative version of that doesn't sound retarded. Hold on, I can give you another narrative version of that doesn't sound retarded.
I can't hear you.
It starts with a George Carlin quote. You don't need a conspiracy when like interests align. So you don't need him to be a BlackRock plant. You don't need the CIA to fucking, activate one of their people. You don't need any of that shit. What you can simply do is you can have a group of people that are ideologically possessed, that are ideologically not fans of Trump, working Trump security. You can give him shit security, give him the B team. You can give a bunch of people that are completely unmotivated to actually do anything because the people that are above them don't punish them if they do a shitty job. And I don't mean like shitty job as in an attack actually happens, but like, it's like, hey man, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? You need to tighten up. And then you have a bunch of lackadaisical people that aren't well prepared because they don't like the fucking guy and because he's not given the protection he needs because everyone goes, oh, he's not going to get it. And then this shit shit just happens because of gross negligence and a bunch of people that don't fucking have anything with him.
I'm good with the incompetence narrative. Sorry, Wick, just real quick. I'm good with the incompetence narrative because I, again, worked for local law enforcement or whatever. And just as an example, real quick, we set up on a house for like one of the richest guys in the neighborhood, and he had been burglarized multiple times. And we set up with cameras, and we had 2 people watching the cameras for like a month. And the burglars broke in again, which is like statistically so weird and odd. But the people behind the cameras were asleep, right? So that's like, yes, local
or the
law
cops were in the building instead of fucking sweeping the building like they're supposed to because it's hot outside and nobody gives a fuck because it's Trump.
So local police departments can be wildly unprofessional.
Here's the problem with all of this, right? Like what Gibbs is saying, what Scott was narrativizing is that's really the problem. Is everyone's taking very, very limited amounts of information, very, very limited amounts of information, a ton of unverified information, and they're telling a story. They're telling a story that fits their worldview in order to push what they believe onto the social media and the public for other people to eat up, right? And that's the problem that we're having today, right?
Yeah, I resent that bullshit accusation.
I resent that as well. That is total bullshit.
And all that, right? But this is what you're doing, right? You are creating a narrative.
No, you're lying.
Right?
I'm lying. I'm doing it to push a specific narrative for engagement.
You're taking this personal. I'm saying this is what's being done in general. This is what's being done right, left, and center. Everyone is doing
Okay, well then don't put my name in your mouth when you're saying
holy shit, I'll put my name in your mouth every time I want. You can't do a shit thing about it. You can sit there and you can take it. That's all you can do. You understand that, right? You have no power here.
Well, no, I can interrupt you and say don't lie about
me. You can interrupt me, but that's
okay.
Like, keep commenting over you.
Do you think
but here's the problem with narrativization.
We
continue to narrativization. We continue to use this limited details. We slapdash a story together that sounds good.
Okay.
That gets updates and tweets, and then we continue to push this thing. And it's a problem, and it's one of the reasons that we have so many issues discussing the facts of the matter is because these stories take a life of their own and they turn and morph into quote unquote facts, right? Because you hear, oh, well, I heard this reputable person that I thought was great, like he laid out all this information. And so when the actual information comes out, when the actual facts of the matter come out and we actually verify or can't verify these very things that have been speculated, it's very hard to change anyone's mind because the first thing you hear from someone you consider a trusted source sticks in your head and it's hard to ever change your mind. And that's why I think I have a real problem when people like Gibbs especially, right, who starts making up shit, right?
Making
up. No, I'm going after
you
this.
You do the same thing, Wick. Like we just had a discussion a couple weeks ago where you imply that I'm an anti-Semite for saying that you located a protest in front of a synagogue, right? Where you called all the pro-Palestinian protesters there anti-Semites and Nazis for protesting the sale.
I didn't call them Nazis, but I called them anti-Semites.
Yeah, you did for protesting the sale of land in the West Bank, right? Illegally occupied land in the West Bank. Right, but
not for protesting, rather than
looking into that story, you immediately started calling them anti-Semites. Immediately started calling me an anti-Semite for saying that they're not anti-Semitic. Like you did the same shit.
Okay, I want to jump in here.
Why are you right here on the fucking high horse?
Again, that's just not true.
I need to get some champagne for this. I will be right back in 2 seconds.
Good plan. I like that plan.
That is true, by the way.
So hold on. Okay, so Gibbs, I'm going to give you a chance, but I want Wick to respond to that, and then Gibbs will go to you. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I didn't use unverified sources. These were things that were like not facts. I looked at what the video showed, which was them chanting "Long live the Intifada," which is an especially outside of a.
Yeah, but it was one video. It was limited.
Anti-Semitic thing to do.
You ignore the video of the pro-Israel protesters saying.
I didn't. I said that they were racist in doing that.
You ignore the context of them being there. You didn't bother to look into the sale of the.
You keep making shit up. None of this is true.
Then why is it then afterwards? After I left the stream, you said, "Oh well, I actually looked into this and I found no evidence of land being sold to the West Bank." I looked. You just go to their fucking website. It takes 2 minutes. You can do it. So I know that if you actually looked into that, you would have found that.
No,
either you didn't actually look into
that event. Show me at that event what land parcels,
or you're fucking lying.
Again, all you have to do to show me a liar. Show me at that event what West Bank parcels were being sold, please.
Okay. Do you acknowledge then that the company that was holding the.
This is a trick. See, this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing.
You're doing the narrative thing. You're doing the narrative thing, Wick. You're doing the narrative thing.
You can't show me at that event what West Bank sales
I thought I was here for the
because you don't fucking know.
You know that
I don't care about
it's Israel Palestine again.
Hold on. I'm just
hold on. I'm gonna give him space. Give him a little space. And we got plenty of time.
We do this all the time. Okay, Wick, this point about narrativization is bullshit from you because you do this all the time, not just with Israel-Palestine, but with Trump, right? Calling him a fascist and making all these crazy implications about what's going to happen to the country if he's elected. Why wouldn't you support him being killed if you believe half the shit you say about him?
Because I am against political violence. I don't think the correct
Why?
answer, even if I think Trump is a threat to democracy, you know what a bigger threat to democracy is? Taking out your.
I'm the only one against political violence.
Damn it. So again,
do you think
taking out your political enemies through violence
in our country if he's elected,
right? By assassination is a bigger threat to political or to democracy because that opens up a can of worms, a Pandora's box, where
democracy is political violence.
The can of worms is open.
Oh God!
Hold on. According to the Supreme Court, Trump can do basically anything as long as it's.
My God! Please, stop.
Yeah, I want to take it there because I think Wick agrees with that narrative. Right?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Well, hold on. So, no. I want to back Doobie up, even though he's being a smart ass here. Okay. One of the things that I have found frustrating about this discourse over the past 96 hours or however long it's fucking been is the fact that I do think Trump is a threat to democracy. I don't think he cares about the rule of law. I don't think he cares about republicanism. I do think he loves nepotism, loves cronyism. I think that he's a nepotistic crony asshole. And the reason why I wouldn't want him to be assassinated is because I wouldn't want there to be reciprocal violence back towards my political side. But I am sympathetic to the people on the left who are like, yeah, if the dude died, I wouldn't give two shits about it. And that's where like the whole thing, it feels a little disingenuous to have people like Pisco, and I love him dearly, but he's like, I would never condone political violence. Whereas he literally like 2 weeks ago was frothing out the mouth, arguing that now the presidency is effectively an absolute monarchy. So if it's an absolute monarchy, if it's a dictatorship, and it just depends on who's seizing power, why wouldn't you take the person out?
Let's go to Gibbs because we've been waiting, and Lecterly.
Yeah, so I object to this, like where we say we can't take facts. I mean, like, first, the counterpoints did narrativize a whole situation, gave it to me, and then my headset went out, right? It's clearly collusion by the government already going there. But secondly, on a real note here, like I said, he made a narrativization. Let me do a narrativization, because, Wick accused me of doing that. So I'm going to do one now, an actual one. Here's one. It's real simple. A couple weeks ago, many people in America thought that Trump got convicted in a kangaroo court. Just what was it, last week or the week before last? The Supreme Court gave Trump a big win. All right. This week or last week, Biden goes, "Hey, we're going to put Trump in we need to put Trump in a bullseye." All right, because he's already losing the campaign. That shows all the poll numbers, and he looks like he's got dementia. This week, Trump got shot at and hit in the ear. Now, I'm not saying any of those are connected, but it is a line of things that go in order.
And those are just presidential hit jobs.
I'm just saying that, a lot of things happen. Those are facts. Now, I'm not putting those in any kind of order. Oh, wait, chronologically, maybe. And then, other than that, y'all draw your own conclusions as thinking Americans that hopefully have degrees of some kind.
Do you think it was Biden?
Together. Hey, I'm not saying who it was. I'm not doing what Wick said and narrativizing anything. I'm just saying I listed events in order that we do know. These are hard facts. Need to know. Hold on. Hard facts that I listed in order. We didn't narrativize that. I just need
to know if you think Biden is incompetent and can't run the country or competent enough to call a hit. I just wanted to
listen, I don't know if you've ever watched any mob documentaries, but sometimes the people at the top of the mob have like Alzheimer's and shit. It's a problem. That Biden crime family, I guess crime families have things in common, no matter the level. But here's another thing. On top of that, it's this idea that what I'm doing is disingenuous is bullshit. Because I literally, his own guy here, Counterpoints, his friend in Progressive Victory, they both just gave a narrative, and then I give a counter negative, and Witt goes, "It's terrible that they're giving narratives. That's a bullshit, Gibbs." And so that's terrible. It's fake news, and what I just can't believe.
I tried to go before Counterpoints, but wouldn't let me.
I'm just saying that y'all are just over here, like, giving us that bullshit and expecting us to eat it fucking like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet when everybody can see that it's bullshit. And I don't know how y'all can sit here and say, oh, these aren't facts, when I only listed 4 or 5 facts there, and they all seem to be in a linear direction.
Skips. I think that most people can accept the fact that the popular perception around Trump likely led to some teen or some 20-year-old taking shots at him, okay?
Oh,
what we're arguing about is whether or not it was intentional. That's what we're arguing about.
Well, I mean, anytime you shoot somebody, it's usually intentional.
Okay, what was it a conspiracy? Was there more than one person? Was Biden involved? Was the Secret Service involved? Was local law enforcement involved?
A lot of fishy things. I'm just saying.
He's just asking questions.
Yeah, I'm just asking questions.
You're just jacking.
He's putting things in order. You're just asking questions.
You're just shutting down questions. That's all you're doing.
These are facts.
I brought up questions, so he's jacking with us.
No, I mean,
this is censorship, man.
Hold on, I'm asking questions and I'm giving facts. Convenient how the scientific method usually works. You collect data, you ask questions about the data. I'm just saying.
Data.
Scientific method. Yep.
Actual data, though.
I mean, what data did I give that was not a hard fact? I didn't even list the bullshit Wick listed, where it's all these crazy bullshit. I listed 4 or 5 facts in a row, and wow, lo and behold, they go in a linear line.
You know a fact that I would like you to. Sorry, you go ahead.
I just think what matters right now most is how our country is going to react to this. And I think it's very dangerous to jump the gun and to make all these assumptions and start like theorizing about or hypothetical. I can't fucking talk. Theorizing about civil war. Yes, that word. About civil war and all these things before we even know the motives. For all we know, this kid, he lived an hour away. He might have been thinking about some kind of like terrorism, like or public violence for like a while, and took an opportunity and like really isn't even involved in politics at all. And now I just think it's dangerous to make all these assumptions before we even know about the motives and more about this kid.
Yeah, but who gives a shit about the motives? With the results?
Why don't we do this? Since the conversation has moved from like strictly the security aspect, why don't we like introduce like the topic proper, because we're like pretty much into it, and we'll start with Black to it anyway, because he's the one's next. The topic, this past Saturday, there was an assassination attempt on former President Trump's life. As of now, it seems that it was a lone gunman. His motives are currently unknown, as he was killed by law enforcement. However, this comes in an increasingly radical political environment where both sides have accused the other nominee of being an existential threat to the United States if re-elected. Liberals/leftists have long made the case that stochastic terrorism is a threat. That the heated political rhetoric will drive a mentally unbalanced person to commit violence. The right has downplayed these claims and washed their hands of it all. In the wake of this incident, should conservatives reevaluate their stance on this issue? Would it be fair for them to blame the left's rhetoric for this attempt? And if so, does this recontextualize the violence we saw on January 6th? Can we now blame Trump for that? And credit to our friend Scott for assisting in coming up with this topic. I really appreciate that. All right, so we'll start with our friend Lactoid, work our way around for opening statements.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say. So firstly, there's some dispute over whether or not what his actual motivations were, what kind of political affiliation he had. While it's true we don't know for sure, I've been hearing people say that he donated to the Republican Party as well. That's not true. I looked into that. The only political donation that I've been able to find is a $15 donation to a progressive organization when he was 17. He did register as a Republican. Of course, that doesn't mean anything in Pennsylvania, which is a closed primary state. If you hated Trump, you should be a registered Republican, so you can vote against him in the primary and vote against him in the general. The fact that he's a registered Republican doesn't mean jack shit, so we can't really glean anything from that. In terms of the actual, what led up to the shooting, or maybe not even what led up to this specific shooting, but I think what this shooting did is open our eyes to what I think is some perceived hypocrisy, or actual hypocrisy in my perspective. So, when condemning January 6th as an insurrection, right, there's a lot of points being, drawn together, and a lot of lines being made, and a lot of thoughts being connected that may or may not necessarily belong connected. But a key component of that is look, Trump riled up his base by consistently repeating false claims that the election was stolen. He repeatedly said to go fight. He repeatedly said this. He repeatedly said this. He amped up the crowd. He amped up his base. And then this happened. What did you think was going to happen? Of course this is going to happen when you amp up your base. And this is the logic that the left has used to insinuate that Trump is responsible. The problem is this is a two-sided coin, because the exact same logic could be used here. When you continuously lie about Project 2025 and attribute it to Trump when he's denied it, when you fearmonger about that particular thing, when you fearmonger about what Trump has said, when you say that he supported Nazis when Snopes said he didn't, that Charlottesville comment turned out to be a lie, which Snopes finally admitted 4 years after. When his speech prior to January 6th is taken out of context, when peacefully is not mentioned, even today, for example, Wick knows what I'm talking about. Maybe not by him, but perhaps by somebody that was on a show. When that telling is reiterated without the context, with the critical context to explain, you demonize and add a sense of vitriol to the conversation. And if the left is going to say that Trump is responsible for January 6th because of his rhetoric, I don't see how you get away from saying that Biden is responsible for the attempt on Trump's life or any violence that happens to Trump going forward, right? And I think, although personally I would not hold Biden responsible, just like I don't hold Trump responsible for January 6th. I'm consistent on that front. But I don't see how you guys get away from that inconsistency. And I think Republicans can be inconsistent on this as well when they're defending Trump and saying, look, you can't hold him responsible, but then they're being super hardcore with Biden saying that he is responsible. I don't think that's fair either. I think that you do have to be responsible and consistent at least, or at least attempt to be consistent. So either it's all, you're responsible for all of it, or you're not responsible. You got to pick a side here. I reject all the conspiracy theories. I do think this is an attack on democracy in some regards, right? It is an attempt of assassination on someone running for president, and it is reprehensible. I fully condemn it. Rest in peace to Corey Compatore. And I am comfortable rejecting it, unlike a lot of, even if you don't think the left is responsible for hyping it up, you have to admit that a lot of key figures of the left have been absolutely okay with it, and in fact been more than gleeful, I think, in commenting on the fact that somebody was killed and the president was shot, or the former president was shot, which I think is, it's disgusting. I would never do it to Biden. You can hold me to that. I don't think I've ever glorified violence that people are saying, well, the right, is... they can come back to me once they condemn the Nancy Pelosi comments or the Nancy Pelosi's husband comments. A lot of people have never said that, and you're responsible for your statements, right? I think that people are kind of lumping people into a group and then demonizing them. The essence of bigotry, it's shitty, and the people who are doing that, specifically in this case, Destiny, Jack Black, they're just disgusting behavior. Fuck them.
So much. Let's go to our friend Scott.
So, mostly everything Lactoid said, maybe some slight disagreement, but mostly everything he said. But let's talk about it a little bit more specifically and how we determine this from a philosophical perspective. So there's a reason that in common law in most Western societies and liberal democracies, the concept of hate speech, the concept, which of course, is obviously something that the left has been trying to force into law for a long time. But the concept of these forms of speech not being demonized unless it's direct and actionable violence, like a call to violence for a specific person, pointing at them, saying on this date, etc., is important, is because anything else moves from the domain of first order consequences to second order consequences, right? So if I commit an action and it's directly attributable to that specific action, in a scenario of cause and effect where that must occur, then that's a first order consequence, right? I fire my gun in self-defense, but I fire it wildly and it goes through the wall and hits and kills my neighbor, right? You might think that that's acceptable, and you might say that it was, but it is a first order consequence. But you might, when you start theorizing about that concept, also realize that the initial aggressor in the situation would be the criminal. And so that's when there are gray areas in first and second order consequences, such as this, right? Who's actually responsible when there is an aggressor in the situation that kind of causes your situation. And then that kind of becomes a second order consequence. And so when you're talking about the concept of stochastic terrorism, you are absolutely talking about second order consequences. You were talking about people saying this person is a threat to democracy, or Joe Biden saying MAGA Republicans are a threat to the soul of America, and that they're against democracy and that they're evil. I don't think he used the word evil in that famous speech with like the red lights and stuff, but you get the point, right? Or when you have countless Democrats. So once we move into the domain of second order consequences, it then becomes a level of, for most people in most normative ethics, it becomes consequentialist. I tend to look at it from an objectivist standpoint of, rational self-interest. Others might look at it from a utilitarian standpoint, or they might look at it from, a virtue ethicist standpoint, et cetera. Right? Is it a man of virtue that says these things, especially when they're lies? And there are a lot of lies being told on both sides. And so once we understand that, if we take it from a consequentialist or objectivist position, and we can talk about the virtue ethicist position, but I mean, I think it's pretty clear cut. Lying about people and saying shit that they're a threat is usually considered to be not good by them. But from a consequential perspective, what occurs then is what are the probabilities and the ratios and the things that are occurring in the world, right? It can be a minor evil, if you will. It can be, less egregious to say an offhand comment, but it becomes what is the context of these things. And I think the important context of many things, and this applies both to January 6th as well as to the attempt on Donald Trump's life, is the cultural perception that there's nothing left but violence. So it's not so much saying this person is evil, this person is a bad person, this person is a fascist or whatever. Those things are certainly bad. But I think what ramps up the likelihood that that has affected us when we look at Trump is this belief that the Supreme Court gives him carte blanche. The belief that there is that Joe Biden is such a doddering fool that he's going to lose the election and this person's going to be president and there's nothing else we can do. And if he's a fascist, he's going to use all of his power to completely destroy America. And so it is things like the SCOTUS decision and things like that. Similarly, I think
Blood,
the situation
I want to talk
changes.
too. Holy shit.
Yeah, look, we only have till 11:30. I'd like this to get.
I'm almost
time, right.
Yeah, we only have until 11.
Almost done. Exactly. Just 10, 15 more minutes.
We got
no. I will just finish the comparison with January 6th, which is a similar situation occurs with January 6th, where Texas, went to the Supreme Court and it was shot down, where all of the states were not doing a substantive review of the ballots, right? And there is a perception that there's nothing we can do. This election is going to be stolen from us. There's never going to be a good investigation in any of these states. And SCOTUS has rejected the state's right to sue. And so it becomes this thing, what do we do but this? Mentality that I think leads to these things. And so, yeah, I would say that it is wrong to say these things, but it is also context dependent. And in both of these situations, I think some of that. Obviously, Donald Trump also made statements that said, don't be violent, don't do these things. So you can't really call Donald Trump an insurrectionist and not immediately say that Joe Biden needs to step down and most of these congressmen need to step down if you have that opinion about Trump. But yeah.
Okay, guys, we got a lot of time on this because this is our only topic. So, it's okay if
no, but I want to get in and throw some punches.
Okay, all right. Well, Corey, please.
Oh, I got 30 minutes then, that's what I'm hearing from what you said.
Yes, exactly what you heard.
I got a dissertation ready right now.
No, I will try to be brief because I know you want to speak, Connor, and probably everyone else. And well, also, so, okay. To, I guess, maybe a little bit of a Lactoid's point. So, at the end of the day, I am not an expert on rhetoric, okay, since arguably I have no problem admitting I have no rhetoric whatsoever. I'm pure, unadulterated, no rhetoric at all. But the characterization that, Lactoid sort of puts on the table in terms of, I have no problem admitting that there's bad rhetoric on the left, and there's absolutely lies and deceit that occur on the left and left media. But again, to act like they're fully 50% equivalent on the left and the right, I think is totally disingenuous, and we can maybe get into that in the open. It's sort of like, again, bringing in whatever academic and science debates. It's like, debates on evolution and creation. Oh, it's just like 50-50. No, it's not 50-50. And totally, the scales are balanced, I would say, marginally or moderately in favor of bad and, let's say, inflammatory rhetoric on the right. And I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, Wick.
I'll keep it short. I'll keep it sweet. Stochastic terrorism isn't really a thing. I reject it entirely. I've argued with people about this before, right? Biden is no more responsible for the shooter, or the rhetoric around Trump is no more responsible for the shooter than the rhetoric around trans individuals is responsible for, hate and violence directed against them. These are disconnected. They're not entirely disconnected, but they're disconnected in a way that makes it hard to really hold anyone responsible. Nor should we. I think it gets into really dangerous territory when we do go down those roads. There is a problem in our rhetoric, and there is a problem in our discourse with dehumanization of the other side, of seeing the other side of as the enemy. No one is free from sin here. Not the left, and certainly not the right. No one is free, right, from mocking when bad things happen to the people who are on the other side. It was disgraceful. It was disgraceful. The people who were mocking the death of that poor man at the Butler rally, simply because he had some yikesy opinions on Twitter. It was disgraceful, and it was disgusting. It was disgraceful and it was disgusting. The people who mocked that young man who got stabbed by that homeless man in the city, when they found out he supported things like ACAB, he supported bail reform, all these things. It was disgusting when that side mocked that man and his wife, or his fiance. It was disgusting. Again, this isn't a right problem. This isn't a left problem. This is a problem. And I think that the haste at which we look to blame either the right or the left as the problem also contributes to this. It becomes a wedge issue, a culture issue, a politicized, polarizing issue. And so we can't really address it because we feel traitors to our side, right? We feel like we're giving the other side ammo when we admit when our side does something that was wrong. The people, such as Destiny, such as, I don't think Jack Black did this, I think it was his bandmate, who were saying horrific things about the shooting, and mocking fun and making light. I argued with Destiny directly about this, so I invited him on our channel. We had a fight about this, right? You can look it up. I'll repeat. We cannot condone political violence like that. It's just not okay. I'll keep it short. I'll keep it simple. That's it. We'll get into discussion. Thank you.
Damn, Wick. I mean, you took so goddamn long. Can you respect the channel?
I
Can you respect the time
crazy.
of everyone else here? I mean, honestly. I apologize to you. I apologize to the rest of you for Wick's behavior. All right. Ali, please.
Oh, just once again, thank God he wasn't Arab or Muslim. Alhamdulillah. And I'll just pass it to Gibbs.
Oh, Jesus, he's going to attack us.
I'll just pass it to Gibbs. Hey, what? Didn't
shot.
happen?
Okay, no.
Sorry, you can't be whispering Arabic shit around me and not expect me to, like,
Praise be. But yeah, Gibbs, you go ahead.
I'm fucking around.
I know.
All right, boys, smoke them if you got them. We're gonna be here a while. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm just gonna say, I think a lot of what's happening by the left is very disingenuous right now. This idea that they have sat here and gone, "Oh, the right are the ones with all the rhetoric." Whenever they talk about the January 6th insurrection, that wasn't really an insurrection, and we compare it to, like, I don't know, the BLM protest that caused $20 billion worth of damage last time I checked, and that was before the insurance companies had even got involved, saying it's gonna be 20 years in some of these areas to rebuild, and then when they look at these things and they say, "Oh, that's not an insurrection," even though they took over land in the city, and then they want to say January 6th is. I think this is a very disingenuous take by the left, especially whenever we have actively many times Biden, who's the leader of their party, they've claimed that they're the leader of the party, they're sticking by this dementia-addled old man that looks like Palpatine fell down some stairs, and they're going to sit here and go, "Hey, you know what? He's our leader. And then when he says, I'd like to take Trump out back and give him a beating. Oh, you know what? This stuff with me, you don't need to worry about that. Let's put a bullseye on him. And then something happens and they go, oh, Trump's the one inciting violence. Oh, it's 60-40 or whatever, the right over the left. No. The left is some of the most vicious, like cancel culture, hateful people I've ever met. Nobody hates themselves more than the left, and then when they hate themselves that much, they hate everybody else too. And that's what's happening here. This hateful individual decided he was going to take a shot and try to kill the president. You know what? I could guess his motive. It was to kill the president. It's pretty simple. I don't know why we're going to sit here and do all this hand wringing and say, oh, what was his motive? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter his motive because the outcome would have been the same, and it would have probably been the boogaloo. You know, although conservatives seem to not be burning down cities when something bad happens to our guy, however, when something bad happens on the left-hand side, I mean, you know, $20 billion and whatever, and then we're not going to call that an insurrection.
Okay, thanks so much. Soyaddle, before I gave 200 bits, saying, is Wick's microphone backwards again? We can hear you. We can hear you.
Am I too quiet?
You were a little quiet there.
I'll try to be a little more loud. I promise. Okay. We can turn it up.
All right. I'm sure. Doobie will give you a reason to be loud. Let's go to our friend Counterpoints.
Okay. Stochastic rhetoric, meaning that you lead somebody up to a violent conclusion, but then you back off at the last thing, is absolutely a thing. We've seen it done on the right wing for plenty of times. We've seen it done on the left wing for plenty of times. We can all come up with dozens of examples of people doing this, okay? Now, here's the thing. Lactoy brought up an interesting conversation about, like, well, what's the difference between the left and the right when it comes to this rhetoric? How can you not be a hypocrite? How can you condemn it on one side but not condemn it on the other? It's because whether or not the underlying facts are true should be relevant to what rhetoric you're doing. Real quick, as an example, if I say Hitler is a bad dude, he hates Jews, he wants to kill Jews, he's a threat to the German Republic, and if nobody does anything, then we're probably fucked. And then somebody goes and tries to shoot Hitler, the underlying facts of the matter are still that Hitler is a bad guy and probably should get taken out. Okay? So, in this example, I want to read you something. I think this was tweeted out in 2022, so 2 years after the election. This is from Donald Trump. So, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Now, from my end, this is the same rhetoric that led up to January 6th. So if there was outcome determinative fraud, then Donald Trump would be correct, maybe not in suspending the Constitution as he alleges in this tweet, but he would be correct in using every means available to him in order to try to maintain power, because basically he's preventing the fraud of the elections of the United States. However, it is now 4 years later, and none of his cronies, and neither he himself, has shown any amount of substantive evidence showing outcome determinative fraud. Whereas what is shown here is the fact that he is willing to suspend the Constitution in order to regain and maintain power. So as a result, if you say this person is a threat to the fundamental Republican order, it's not a lie. It's fundamentally true. And so I think Pisco and Dan and Destiny are being alarmist about the SCOTUS ruling. I fought them about this like last week or whatever. But one of the things that Fabian said that I think was really interesting was he said, the problem is not necessarily the rhetoric. The problem is the fact that you think that violence is the only option available to you. And I can see how, if you think that Trump is a threat to democracy, if you think that he will be an absolute dictator, and if you think that a voting is not going to work, how you would take the actions that this young man took. I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much.
I got to respond to that after the openings.
Sure. Ghosty.
So in about an hour.
Okay.
Write it down.
So, no, I don't think it's fair to blame Trump for his own assassination attempt. But I also don't think it's fair to blame Democrats for their rhetoric. especially when Republicans are guilty of the exact same. If you want to talk about fear-mongering from the left, Trump's entire campaign is fear-mongering. I don't even think he has a plan for his presidency. He just perpetuates fear and uses his voters' fear. I blame Thomas Crooks for this right now. And like I said, what's most crucial, I think, is how we handle the aftermath of this. America has, no room for political violence, and I think it's unfortunate it's gotten to this point where someone had to die, but that's why I think we should all be very careful what we wish for, and take violent events like this very seriously. Violent events like this and others very seriously. And I do think Trump does show a lot of signs of authoritarianism. Sorry, I'm really bad with vocabulary. But yeah, I don't think it's smart right now to start pointing fingers and talking about civil war until we learn the motives. The U.S. has a lengthy history of presidential assassinations and attempts, which is not to excuse it, but I just don't think we should jump the gun. I think we should take a step back, and hopefully this will be a wake-up call for Trump and both political parties.
Thank you. DB.
If stochastic terrorism isn't real, then it really shouldn't matter if people are being dehumanized or Trump is being made out to be the fucking devil. He's going to kill millions of people if he gets elected. None of that should matter if stochastic terrorism isn't real. So I don't think that makes any sense.
Okay. And before we jump into it, we're going to go to Lactoid first because he wants to respond and counterpoints. Hey guys, consider supporting the channel. Just going to make that call here. If you want to watch this on YouTube, consider the super chats. I got my eye out on that. All right.
I can't see you, Prime. I'll take your word for it.
So how about the channel? Admiral Gibson, forget that sub earlier. I didn't shout you out for that. But how about the channel? Subs to the channel, give bits, give subs, gift memberships on YouTube if that's a thing you like to do. Support this channel so I can continue bringing this content. All right, let's go to our friend Lactoid.
Yeah, so something interesting was said, which is that, correct me if I exaggerate things or if I misstate something, but my understanding was what you said was it depends on whether or not the underlying facts are true as to whether or not it's this sort of stochastic terrorism or incitement or not. However, I went through a couple examples. I'm going to reiterate them as to the complete falsehoods that have been used by Biden or his campaign because I'm pretty sure all of these have been used by Biden and other major Democrat sources in order to discredit and attack Trump that are just wholly false. Let's talk about one of the biggest ones, which has been a lie repeated for 4 years now, which is that he called Nazis very fine people at the Charlottesville riot where someone was killed, right? This was specifically repudiated by Donald Trump in that statement, and people kept peddling that bullshit for how many fucking years? People believed that, holy shit, he's a Nazi. He's calling Nazis very fine people. If I had a quarter for every fucking time I was told that. And so now it's been instilled into the brains of people that he thinks Nazis are very fine people, which was a complete falsehood. Snopes already said it was a lie. That's not true. You're talking about the insurrection. Look, under the underlying facts of the insurrection, Donald Trump was wrong. Well, a lot of the ways the insurrection is being categorized is also false. Whenever people talk about we got to go fight, we got to go do this, we got to do that, during his speech that he gave prior to the riot that happened on January 6th, everybody always conveniently leaves out peacefully and patriotically. Why isn't peacefully included? Why isn't that that very important word, that very important piece of context ever included? Because you're fear-mongering. You're fear-mongering about this guy. You don't want to include peacefully because fuck this guy. He's evil. We don't want him to win another fucking election. Cutting Social Security, I don't know how much relatedness that actually has to violence. But again, kind of part of this overall fear-mongering strategy when this is absolutely false. Biden reiterated this at the debate. And then the Project 2025 bullshit, okay? People have this belief that Project 2025 was written by fucking Hitler, right? And is being implemented through Trump, through mind control, back from 1936, okay? This is what people believe. When, first of all, he has specifically said he's not supporting Project 2025. He's supporting Agenda 47. That's been lied about repeatedly by Biden, his campaign, and plenty of other Democratic sources. And also, the specifics of Project 2025 are also fucking lies often. Mark Hamill, fucking Luke Skywalker, he was fucking on Twitter saying how Project 2025 is going to remove no-fault divorce. Nobody has read this fucking shit. Nobody, like, you're not going to find that anywhere in Project 2025. Like 90% of the claims that people are making about Project 2025 are completely false, and he doesn't even endorse it. So you have repeated fear-mongering about completely false things from Biden and his staff and his campaign. Now, if you think, again, this is the crux. If you think, well, yeah, that's all bullshit, that's all lies, but when you're running a campaign, like, just because you say these lies and you say this bullshit, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're responsible for what some crazies might do if you hype them up. I fully agree. So I'm not, this is why I said at the beginning, I'm not going to hold Biden responsible. Some people here might. Okay, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to hold Biden responsible for Trump getting shot or for Corey dying, like Corey, not this Corey, but the other Corey dying,
I know.
right? That's fucked up. But this is a double standard. This is an absolute double standard. Lies are being used on both sides to incendiate, to cause a lot of incendiary, vitriolic hatred. And you are not free from that. Your side, at least, is not free from that.
So
very quick, just point of clarification. So I put in, it was said, Ghosty said, I don't even think he has a plan, right? And I think the fact that many people don't even know that Trump has a plan is really telling about how much the media drives up bullshit. And if you try and Google it, right, like it all you're going to get is Project 2025, which is an
Wait, the media. I'm sorry, just real quick. He had an entire debate to talk about his plan, and he didn't mention one thing. I just want to say that it's not from the media.
He mentioned he railed immigration for half the fucking debate, which is his one fucking thing that he's super passionate about, and he's not even lying about that.
Yeah. So just very quick, since you've never heard of it or you've never seen of it, us that are involved in politics and discussing it online should do like just the tiniest basis amount of research before we step onto a panel. So if you want to take some time, I gave you the links to his plan that has a name, that has videos, that have his policies, because you said you didn't even think he had one. So clearly you don't know anything about Trump or the Trump presidency at all. So if you want to learn about it a little bit, the links are all there.
Yes, and the reason she doesn't know is obviously because the big states, the deep states, out to get Trump and suppresses all his things. It isn't because Trump has failed to communicate, right, his plan accurately and succinctly to the American public. It's all someone else's fault. It's all someone else's fault. This victim complex that you that you're always like pushing, this narrative that, well, if only the media wouldn't lie about us, they'd all be able to understand our plan and we'd be happy and everyone would agree and we'd all come together in this kumbaya moment. It's just never true, right? Like, look, when we talk about like purveyors of political violence,
man, but okay,
right? The purveyors of political violence. Trump has been one of the biggest purveyors of political violence
So before we get into the finish, but I want to get in.
Okay. Yeah, Trump has been one of the biggest pushers of extremism. Yes, the left is not free from sin here. I would never say that the left has no blood on their hands when it comes to this topic. They absolutely do. I can point to specific figures who do this. I can point to things like even Destiny recently who did this, right? It's bad. But we cannot sit here and pretend that the right also does not do this. And again, this idea.
No one's doing
this idea.
Okay, so
not a single person on this panel has even suggested that the right doesn't engage in this.
Okay, and before we get into
the tit-for-tat, I condemn it when they do.
Before we get into the tit for tat of who is worse, by the way, the person that I hate the most in Twitch and YouTube politics is Hassan Piker, who is a lefty. I think he's one of the biggest pieces of shit on the internet. But anyways, so Lactoid.
Hold on, Ghosty. We can hear some voices on your end. So consider maybe in your mic.
You can hear that? Oh.
Yeah, no problem. No issues. Go ahead, counterpoints.
So the reason why I read the tweet that I did is because I think it is particularly egregious. I think it's borderline indefensible. I think that it demonstrates the fact that he should, if he's going to make this claim, that we should be willing to suspend rules, regulations, and articles up to and including the Constitution, then you should be holding, if you're going to be doing that, you should be holding the fucking royal flush in your hand. You should have evidence of outcome determinative fraud that the entire American people have been completely defrauded in the election. And I'm saying 4 years later, he still does not have it, which means that one of two things. This guy is either delusional, which is an option, or he's malevolent, which is the more likely option. And so as a result, if you think that he's delusional or malevolent, and he's saying that he, as the president of the United States, is willing to suspend the Constitution, that is a demonstrable threat to the way that our republic functions. So that
between
is
Biden and Trump, who's actually ignored SCOTUS ruling between those two presidents?
No. I would like it if
between Biden and Trump,
or
who's actually
maybe Biden's using the SCOTUS ruling.
Don't jump away. I want you to
not
tell
jumping
me.
away.
Okay, so I'll ask you a question because I'm making this point and I'm trying to make it as straightforward as I can.
At the end of can you read the tweet again? You're done?
Sure, I would love to. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and closely working with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. So has Trump proven outcome determinative voter fraud to the tune that he's talking about in this tweet?
Not to my satisfaction. During January 6th, I was
anyone's satisfaction
when it was happening. When January 6th was happening, I was actively condemning it. Right at the fucking time. Right, I said this is horrible.
Do you
right?
still condemn it?
Of course, January 6th. Of course I do. Of course I do. Of course I do. It's easy.
Of course, they should have showed up with guns and stayed outside.
There you go.
Okay.
And way better if they would have showed up with guns.
I want to hear his. I want to hear his response.
I'm giving it.
This is the issue.
Yeah. So I was condemning it, and I was condemning it for multiple reasons. The point I'm trying to get at is not only can I condemn that, but I could also see like a plausible, I guess, a plausible way here that Trump could be thinking what he was thinking. Even though I don't necessarily agree with him, right? And so if this is where the logic jump is, right? If you think that, so let's just assume, it's going to be hard for you and a lot of people. I'm not even insulting you with that. Like perhaps it is, reasonably speaking. Let's say Trump did believe that it was stolen, right? He was listening to certain voices that were confirming the biases he had. He saw certain videos and he was saying like, there's no fucking way this isn't stolen. I was doing so good. I was doing this. How the fuck did this happen? Right, but he let's say he genuinely believed it was stolen. In that context, the statement there, although I disagree with it, is that an incitement to violence? Right? Is that stochastic terrorism? Is him saying these fuckers cheated? We got to fucking go back and redo this shit. This is awful. If we're going to insinuate that is like violence. Well, we're not ignoring violence because the question today is what motivated Trump getting shot.
Okay, so hold on. The reason why I'm saying ignore violence is because I think that you could create an entirely dystopian nation without violence. So for instance, like the CCP or whatever, I almost guarantee you that China, if you look at homicides, thefts, murders, robberies, rapes, whatever, they are probably statistically significantly lower than the United States of America, and yet they don't have obvious coercive violence that happens every single day. So I still wouldn't care if Trump was saying, grab your AR-15s, boys, it's time. What he's talking about is suspending the Constitution of the Republic based off of what he believes.
Right. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. If your point in this is just like, oh, like Trump, like, this is a terrible take by Trump. Fuck Trump. If that's it. Take. You can say it's terrible.
A fundamental threat. It's a
fundamental threat to democracy. You know what? Fabric. You're saying the same thing, but in more words. Is that terrible? Is a fundamental threat to the fabric of democracy? Is that terrible? I think we would both agree that would be terrible, right? So you think it's a terrible take from Trump, and you want to say fuck Trump based on that one thing, or whatever, and everything else. I'm not limiting you to just that one thing. You can say that Trump is bad for all sorts of reasons, okay? But the question is, like, if you're fear-mongering about objectively false things, like the things that I went through before, and you really, really hype up this shit over and over and over again, and insinuate, hey, this motherfucker's Hitler, like this is exactly what Hitler did, even though it's not necessarily what Hitler did, right? There are differences. Like if this leads you to be responsible for the actions that come afterwards, which is what you're insinuating Trump is responsible for by saying this in the first place, you're caught in a catch-22. You got to pick one option.
I'm not, because I think stochastic rhetoric is absolutely a thing. And then here's the thing. So I want to rebut you.
So Biden's responsible.
So he's partially responsible, absolutely. So the rhetoric, though. So this is where I want you to follow me real quick. So let's say that this young man is either an accelerationist, or he's a moderate Republican, or he's a left-winger who entered into the primary, right? He's one of those three things, right? Let's eliminate accelerationist because he wouldn't be motivated by the same reasoning. But let's say he's a moderate Republican, or he's a Democrat, or a progressive, or a leftist, and he just voted in the primary. Then if you have this tweet along with all the other behaviors that Trump has done, and you believe that that is a threat to the Republic, and then you have someone like Pisco or Dan, who I argued with viciously last week, come out and say that the Supreme Court has effectively made the president an absolute monarch with unchecked power, then at that point, the attempt on Trump's life makes sense logically. Now, I'm not saying that that is true. And if anything, if you want to indict Dan Can't Stream and Destiny and Pisco for being hyperbolic about this issue, I will agree with you.
I do.
I think that that rhetoric did lead to the shooting.
Counterpoint. There's a fundamental flaw with your argument. There's a fundamental flaw with your argument.
No, Scott. We should let that linger for a second. That was an admission.
Guys, we got people in line, right? So we got Corey, Wick, and Scott. All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I should be brief, probably. So yeah, Lactoid, maybe just as a point of clarification. So you're right, okay, on Trump's speech on January 6th, he did technically say, okay, peacefully and patriotically, but I'm just curious, like, do you think that you can add that to like any piece of text or speech and that makes it, automatically like nonviolent?
It doesn't make it automatically nonviolent, but it's critical. But it's critical context to include whenever you're describing the statements of somebody, right? If I say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. Oh, just kidding, I'm not really going to do that. Does the just kidding, I'm not really going to do that, is that like necessarily get rid of everything I just said? Not necessarily, right? You got to look at the context. You got to and I think the context is critical here to look at, actually. I think it's one of the reasons why it was not an insurrection. But when you leave that part out, when you just say, no, he said this, leave out the peacefully part. Leave out the part where he said not the Nazis when it came to Charlottesville. Leave out like you're just.
I'm not talking about that. You're bringing out things that.
No, I'm including that. I'm including that because what you're doing is you're clipping, right? You're clipping certain things of what people are saying, and you're giving people an impression about what somebody is saying without the things that are most defensible to them. When you do this, you're obviously going to give somebody a warped perception.
It's a lie of omission.
It's a lie of omission. This person's Hitler. Of course they're Hitler. Not only did this one website.
Said that.
I'm not coming after you. I'm just describing the process here. Like the process is.
I'm trying to engage with you and like the points that I'm trying to make, though. Like,
yes, I agree. I agree. I agree with two things. I agree with one that just saying peacefully, or really any amount of words, even if he got on his knees and pleaded with people to not do anything violent whatsoever, that would not be determinative necessarily that he didn't have some kind of violent intent. Nothing can actually be determinative. And in any context whatsoever, that he didn't have violent intent. And then secondly, when people say that and leave out the context, they are being irresponsible. I'll make that claim too.
Okay, sure. I'm trying to go step by step. I only asked you one question so far, just to establish.
Well, something. I'm angry, so go ahead.
I know. Well, maybe control your anger and learn some, emotional regulation strategies.
I can't. So, yeah, I'm a right winger. We don't have emotional regulation, right?
I know. So you spoke about broader context. Okay, so that's what I wanted to get to in terms of the broader context of like Trump's whatever speech on January 6th. Like, so in your interpretation, like overall, like percentage wise, like as long as he had that, peacefully and patriotically, that means the broader context is like non-violent. Like it was never a call to violence.
This is why I went through everything I just said, because I specifically repudiated what your conclusion there just was. I'm not necessarily saying that him adding this means for sure that it was peaceful, okay? What I'm saying is that when you're describing his actions, if you leave that part out, you're being irresponsible. Okay, there is nothing he could have done to prove for sure that that was not an insurrection.
Okay, so then how would you characterize the tone of his speech? As an overall inflammatory, neutral, really positive and uplifting? Where's your barometer?
So I would categorize the speech in my opinion.
Said, so just to maybe add some, but I'm going to be clipping, so you can add whatever context you want. But I think he explicitly mentioned, that he got the most votes ever. Okay, which is obviously not true since Biden won. I think he mentioned that Biden got 80 million computer votes. I think that was specifically what he said. He also mentioned that Mike Pence has to do the right thing, so that they have to
If he said it, you can mention all of that. Yeah, if he said it, you can mention it. Right. I'm not saying that you can't mention it. What I'm saying is that
where's your barometer on the tone?
When you're tone, well, hold on. Tone and statements here are different, right? If you're saying that he's saying false claims, that's fine, right? You can bring up the particular claims, you can prove them wrong. What I'm saying is that the question is not necessarily whether or not he was lying. The question is, what was the purpose of what he was doing? Is the purpose of what he was doing to get people to go commit an insurrection? And when he includes specific phrases, certain commands, such as to be peaceful and patriotic, when he talks about respecting law enforcement, when you look at his actions of that day, I'm looking at the total picture, and I'm not seeing an insurrection. Now, you might disagree. Reasonable minds could disagree here. But when you're not looking at the full picture, when you're saying, well, he said all this, leaving out the piece.
Okay.
I just answered. I just answered.
Lactoid.
No, I don't
like
think
I said I don't see an insurrection. I'm going to repeat myself again.
That's not, okay. So I
how do I view it? That's what you said, right?
I gave some categories. Yeah, exactly. I said.
What's the tone?
As an example of
what the fuck do you mean? The vibe? The vibe was political. Yes, it was an angry political thing.
It's amazing how the tone matters.
You gotta use the right word, Corey. What the fuck?
Yes, that's all I want to hear is if you could say angry political, okay, so as long as you can actually admit that, that's all I really want.
Democracy is political violence.
When we're talking about this, you're
Dark Brandon does the same fucking shit. Who cares?
Is this on?
Like your vibe right now. You're angry.
I'm doing it right now. Am I inciting violence?
Yes, you're an insurrectionist.
With everything you just said, is that you're mad because people leave out context when they leave out the word peacefully. Fair enough. But what you're doing is also leaving out all the context that led up to this, including the false elector slates that were prepared for this moment and everything leading up to it that also adds context to what happened on January 6th. So you can be mad as hell all you like about people adding context, but you don't have blood. Your hands aren't free to blood here either, because if you want to talk about this in a holistic, entire rational fashion, you cannot leave out the false elector slot.
I'm always willing. I'm always willing to talk about any
Fair
aspect.
enough.
I'm always I'm always willing to talk about any aspect of this. The point I'm trying to make is, if you and I are in a panel and we have the time to go back and forth, I'm not going to back away from any particular aspect of what happened here. Okay, but when people are talking about the insurrection, right, the alleged insurrection, what you guys would say is the insurrection, it is like a long form conversation in which specific snippets are being left out to make somebody look more violent than they necessarily are, to make somebody look more like a threat than they necessarily are. How am I doing that? Do you think that somebody do you think that it's the same thing to make somebody look like more like a threat as opposed to leaving stuff out that makes them look like less than a threat when it comes to encouraging violence?
They're similar things when it
comes to encouraging violence. Making somebody seem like more of a threat encourages violence. Making somebody seem like less of a threat does not encourage violence.
The question at hand, whether or not January 6th was an insurrection, an attempt, an auto coup, right? An attempt to overthrow the result of the election, right? But again, you have to, if you're going to accuse people of leaving out context, and then you yourself leave it out context, it makes how are people going to take you seriously?
And I just did that with the Hearn report.
I just arrested.
I understand that it's a long conversation to have. I understand that it's a long form conversation, but I think that you are very angry because people choose to shorten it in one way, but you excuse yourself from shortening it in your way. But this is all beside the point. Oh my
God!
Let me address that.
You're doing that now, Wick, with the Hearn
report. No. Let's leave the Hearn report out for just 1 second. I have again never backed away. And if ever we're talking about in full context, the events leading up here, the overall theory of Jack Smith's case, right? Yes. The quote-unquote fake elector slates, those are going to be critical when it comes to analyzing what the overall theory is about what Trump did. What I'm saying is multiple things. I've never backed away from having a conversation about that. whenever we're talking about stochastic terrorism, violence being encouraged by one person against another, leaving out context that makes somebody seem like less of a threat is not the same as leaving out context which makes somebody seem like more of a threat. Third, we weren't even necessarily talking about that specific aspect of it. When people are talking about what Trump said peacefully and patriotically was in the same fucking speech. Mm-hmm. And they're leaving that part out. There's multiple like branches. In the same
sentence.
In the same fucking sentence. Cut the sentence. There's multiple branches to all what the supposed theory of insurrection are. And yes, you're not going to be able to, in every casual conversation, get to every single branch. And if peacefully and patriotically was like on a separate phone call that happened like the night before, I wouldn't blame Democrats so much for leaving that part out. But when it's in the same fucking speech, when they literally just clip and ship the same thing they did with the Charlottesville bullshit, right? When they just clip and ship a particular part out of a paragraph and then just use that, there's no way to view that. That's not saving time. That's not like being reasonable.
It's like a
That's
line
just
item
bad
veto.
faith. That's a line item veto. That's just straight up bad faith to make somebody look more like a threat than they necessarily are.
Okay.
All right, so
let's take this off.
Are we taking turns? I waited. It was my turn. I was told I had to wait.
I'll wait. Okay, we'll go to after that. We'll go to Scott, Gibbs, and counterpoints. Okay?
Scott wants to finish the opening statement.
Sure, Doobie has something else.
Fuck you, Corey.
Look, dude, fuck you. My opening statement was long because I had to bring up some philosophical points and understanding this, and you can't do that unless it's an opening because you just get jumped on too much. It's too complex. But I want to say this, Counter. One of the issues that I have with the way this conversation has shifted is in my opening that you kind of like you said that like it was an interesting point and you kind of piggybacked off of, which is the concept that like, is there a feeling of hopelessness from individuals because of the rhetoric that is coming through? You shifted it a little bit to a Mott and Bailey, which is the Mott being that the Bailey being this argument about the Mott being the factual aspect. Right? You're stating that, well, if it's a fact, it's one thing, but if the underlying things aren't a fact, it's another. And the issue that I have with that is then you go along with all of your conversations as if there is an assumption that widespread voter fraud isn't a fact in any way because the Republicans have a burden of proof to prove said widespread voter fraud, despite the fact that you have the New York Times coming out and openly admitting that a group of Republicans and Democrats did what they could to, quote, fortify the elections. Despite the fact that the Texas, when they tried to go to SCOTUS, they were shut down. Despite the fact
what are you implying with fortify the election?
States, there was
what are you implying there?
I'm implying that they I'm implying that they bragged about changing the rules to make voter fraud easier, to make individuals that wouldn't have normally voted.
Yeah, this is the problem.
What do you mean bullshit? They literally.
They bragged about.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Hold on.
In media,
this is the Mott and Bailey.
We got a bunch of
this is the Mott and Bailey. You snuck in.
Awesome.
You snuck in the premise that it is untrue, that it is factually incorrect that there was widespread.
You snuck in the premise that fortifying meant that they made it easier to commit voter fraud.
Do you have?
I love when they yell because I got your fucking ass.
Yeah, is that why we're yelling, and not because you're being a little baby? You gotta yell.
I want to ask you. I want to cut to the point here. I want to cut to the point here. Do you think that there is evidence of outcome determinative voter fraud?
Outcome determinative is the thing you're sneaking in here. There's always evidence of voter fraud.
It's the thing that fucking matters.
It's the thing that matters.
No. Because the question is it factual?
You're saying no, like I'm.
And then again, you're repeating the Mott and Bailey. Right? Because you're shifting it from is it factual? And then what you do is you're making two arguments simultaneously.
Notice he's not answering the question.
So Fabian, I will articulate why it matters.
I'm gonna fucking no. What you are doing is you're saying it is fact dependent, and then you say where is the evidence to prove that this is a fact? And I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that it is absolutely true that there was outcome determinative election.
I can't prove it. I have no evidence, but here you go.
Yeah, Fabian, I would like the opportunity.
First of all, I don't have any evidence. There's always evidence of voter fraud.
I would like the opportunity to articulate why there's a difference here for me. So, if you say, "Hey, Connor, you said that there was no voter fraud," I don't think I've ever done that. So if you're like, hey, in Georgia, there was 10 different families that lived out of state. They registered in one state in order to vote. They also voted in this state. We didn't find out until after the election. Or if you say in Arizona, they let 60 Mexicans vote or some shit like that, like Mexican nationals. Then for me, I would be like, okay, I understand that there was fraud. Did this affect the outcome of the election? The reason why I care about that is because the person. Well, that's great, but I'm going to say it anyways in case anybody at home doesn't know. The reason why that's important is because there's a very powerful man, perhaps one of the most powerful men on the planet, who said that he was willing to suspend the Constitution of the Republic based on whether or not that is true.
You're re-explaining Amat and Bailey. You're re-displaying why your argument's fallacious. It's very simple.
Who gives a shit?
Amat and Bailey is a defense where you're making two simultaneous arguments. You said that it is determinative of whether or not it is a fact. So just as much as you can ask me that it is a fact that widespread voter fraud was outcome determinative, I can then reverse that and say, do you know for a fact that there was not widespread determinative voter fraud? Do you know that for a fact? Can you say that it is a fact? Right, exactly. So when
what I can say is a fact is no one has presented any evidence of this.
Shut up.
That's what I can say.
Shut up. I'm talking about counterpoints argument, Wick. Like, you're just interrupting to try and like derail for your side.
I'm interrupting, trying to make this more entertaining. People don't fall fucking asleep.
I want to get to the point.
I'm not filibustering. What I'm saying is you then continue the conversation as if it is a fact. You're saying that you say it is fact dependent, and then you continue the conversation as if it is a fact because Donald Trump couldn't prove it. So let's just hypothetically say it is a fact.
Okay.
Let's say hypothetically it is a fact. Let's say the election was stolen. Would that not completely change his statement? By your logic, would that all right? So then, if that is the question, how do you then go about in your argument as if the assumption is Scott, that it is not?
I'm going to explain it to you. So now you're just talking about like how do we know what we know? Okay, that's what you're really asking me. And
no, I'm not asking for a question of epistemology. What I'm saying.
I listened to you for fucking 10 minutes at a goddamn time. You can shut the fuck up.
Well, no, I'm just interrupting you and your philosophy is wrong.
The problem is the state.
I know that we hate each other. But let's just try to get through it, okay? So how do we orient ourselves? Well, maybe not personally, but yes, I find you frustrating. So how do we know what we know, or how do we orient ourselves in a world using probability, okay? And what I would say is that there's in order for there to be outcome determinative fraud that actually makes Donald Trump the correct one, and then therefore make his tweet morally justifiable, there would have to be a cascade of failures. There would have to be shitloads of people who committed fraud. There would have to be law enforcement. Shut up. There would have to be a shitload of people who committed fraud. There would have to be a shitload of law enforcement agencies that missed it completely. There would have to be a shitload of fucking auditors who didn't do that. And then not only that, all the legal challenges that happened that Trump did, they had to get kicked out of court unjustly. And then not only that, Trump would have had to not publish the results, taking it to the court of public opinion. And right now, I have never gotten my Kraken. The Sidney Powell, Donald Trump, all of the fucking lawyers who promised me that there was wide-scale voter fraud that was going to shake the foundations of the republic, they have never sat down and had a press conference and said, we found 50,000 votes in the state of Georgia. These are all verified. We know that it's true. The court kicked us out unjustly. You can verify it using this, and this information. Therefore, Georgia should have been ours. And then they should have done that for all of the states that would have changed the election. The reason why I'm suspecting that they didn't do that is because they're probably fucking lying.
Okay. And if you want to have that opinion, I personally have the opinion that you don't know.
Why wouldn't I have that opinion?
I personally have the opinion that I personally have the opinion that in every state, with the exception of Arizona, the investigations included people investigating themselves and finding nothing, and then doing recounts of the.
Okay, do you have any evidence of outcome determinative voter fraud? Do you have any? Do you have any evidence of this? Please present it.
I think you can watch the live stream from Arizona.
You don't. That's what he's saying. He does not. That
I love how you just interrupt. I love how you ask a question.
He would present it. He would say, "Yes, I do. Here it is."
I love how I'm in the position of
filibuster. He likes to.
Who's filibustering?
He likes
interrupt me to create straw mans and talk over me.
He mistakes your verbosity for filibustering, but I know that you're just.
We like definitions on this panel.
I'm not filibustering. I'm saying you can see.
Yes, you're verbose.
Can we define filibuster?
You can see Black Law's dictionary out for anybody.
You can find.
It's not obfuscating, Ali.
If you watch the presentations that were done in Arizona, it was Maricopa County, I believe. I could be getting the name wrong. When Cyber Ninjas was involved, and you know, counterpoints. You said 16 Mexicans didn't vote. They found more than 16 3D incorrectly printed stamps that were digitally added that weren't even actual stamps. Now, do I know that level of voter fraud that they weren't properly able to investigate because it was the only county where it was ever actually investigated to any degree, and the Democrats fought them for over a year to try and make it to where they couldn't investigate them? Do I know that went over the 11,000 votes that would have switched that specific state? No, I don't know for a fact, because in none of these states was there a full-scale investigation.
The
evidence doesn't exist on one side.
I would like the opportunity to talk because I think this is relevant.
And after that, we got to get to Gibbs and move on. And Doobie, I'm sure Doobie has something to say, and he's bursting at the seams. Go ahead.
The reason why I'm defaulting to the cumulative amount of experience of hundreds, if not thousands, of human beings related to this election is because of the outcomes of all of this stuff, where they didn't go to the court of public opinion. They only went to a limited set of courts. They largely got kicked out of those courts. And then on top of that, when it came to civil suits, as an example with Dominion, correct me if I'm wrong, Rudy Giuliani and the Trump campaign had to pay like tens of millions of dollars to an electronic voting machine company because they basically said that it was hacked by Venezuelans and Russians and all that kind of shit. And when it came to the evidentiary providing of it, not only did they show that they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, they showed that they continued to repeat untruths after they had been shown that they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. They had to pay through the fucking nose for lying out their asses in public. So yeah, I'm going to default to these people when it happens again and again and again and again.
Okay, let's go to Gibbs.
So again, very quick. Let me counter very quickly. Yep. I will be very quick. Again, I said you can have that opinion. And that's perfectly reasonable opinion to have, given the evidence. And it's also reasonable that there wasn't enough investigation.
The only reasonable opinion.
You also admit even yourself that they were kicked out of many courts and that these court cases didn't go through. Yeah. And you can have opinions one way or the other on that. I'm saying that you're saying that it is fact opinion, that it is that the rhetoric is based upon a fact, and there's not appropriate investigations for you to say that
nothing. Hold on, this is important. Nothing that can be said or done. God Himself could descend from the heavens and say, "Hey, no, there wasn't outcome determinative voter fraud," and you'd be like, "Well, I don't know about that." There's always
God.
I'm just going to make this claim right here. There's no amount of evidence.
He's God, or my God.
We have a Muslim God on this panel. Thank you.
That would have shown that there is no outcome determinative voter fraud. The only reasonable position, based on the actual evidence and not just hearsay opinions and TikToks, right, is that there was no outcome.
Okay, so we got to go to Gibbs, and then Doobie.
That's what happens when you don't do that.
Let me just pull up all my notes for the last.
What about the 2016 election? Do you think that was legit?
Oh, when Hillary claimed it wasn't legit? I remember that election.
Hold on.
Yeah, right?
Are any of you named Gibbs?
Thank you.
Think so. Except for the
middle name,
redhead,
actually.
Please.
Yeah.
Gibbs.
So first, before I begin my lengthy dissertation here, I would like to start off with 2 words we should look up definitions for. Since we like doing definition debate here. The first one's going to be double standard. That's a rule or principle which is unfairly applied in different ways to different groups of people. All right,
looked them up this time.
Yeah, I did. And then hypocrisy is the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. And all right, so that's what I think we can use those as basic definitions. I know they're not from Black's Law, but I feel like they're good enough to move forward with what I'm about to say. And what I'm about to say is it's interesting. I heard from 2 people like 3 hours ago, Mr. Campbell and Mr. Wick here, and they both mentioned tone. And all this tone was so important for how Trump said it on January 6th. He just said it so vigorous.
I asked about tone. I asked about tone.
Well, come on.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to that. So maybe I misquoted Wick, but one of them somebody said tone, and then I feel like Wick kind of went with it. He can take issue.
No, I talked about the false slate of electors, and I talked to Lactoid about whether or not he was leaving things out. Tone was not a part of.
Yeah, leaving things out. And tone is one of the things that got left out.
I understand the facts aren't really
in the her report. In the her report here. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about facts. I gave early facts earlier, and y'all took umbrage with those facts. Now I'm giving the only person
giving definitions. How dare you?
And now I'm the only person giving definitions. I guess that's a narrative too. And so I guess we don't call that. You know, we do call this hypocrisy because the tone, don't matter for the her report. Whether or not he's stuttering or dementia addled, doesn't matter there. Last week when Biden said, "Hey, we're gonna put Trump in a bullseye," and then this week, literally, he got put in a bullseye. I mean, the tone, I guess, don't matter there because he added peacefully and patriotically.
He didn't say
when. But he said peacefully and patriotically after he said he was going to put him in a bullseye, right? No, wait, he didn't. Let's go. AOC famously talked about protests, making people feel uncomfortable.
The bullseye thing's bullshit.
Violence.
Come on,
Hold on. The BLM stuff. Well, I can't even tell you how many people condone the riots on the left, and then some of them just hand waved it with all their angry speech saying, "Oh, this is what needs to be done. Tear down the system.
The vice president.
Eat the rich." Vice president, exactly.
Donating to bail for form.
Yeah, I'm saying, and then we act like it's the same as when Trump gives this speech, and in the same sentence, says, peacefully and patriotically, and then y'all want to bitch about tone. And then I'm almost done. Then briefly, I do want to touch on Destiny and some of these other people with what they're saying and how they're reacting to this riots. Because it's terrible to laugh at someone that died, but I do want to examine the two similar incidents, which would be Rittenhouse and this. And I think it's ironic or interesting, maybe, that the side that are full of hypocrites doing the things that I've already mentioned before, on their side, when Kyle Rittenhouse killed him, they just random sampling, lo and behold, it happens to be two people with felonies, and maybe some sexual violence involved in there as well. And then on the side when the Trump guy dies, he's a firefighter. Not saying there's any reason why there's two groups there, but it's kind of ironic that one side's filled with one certain group of people, and then people are mad about it when they die, and the other side's filled
to use the deaths of others.
What was that Martin Bailey thing? I don't know. Here's my Martin Bailey.
Bravo, I guess.
It's not a Martin Bailey, but it is hypocrisy.
Yeah, it is hypocrisy.
DP, then Corey.
I guess I don't have a speech. Right? I have a question for Wick. Because I'm like stuck on this. I think you don't believe that stochastic terrorism is a thing. You don't.
Not in a way that will lead us to take any kind of action against people who engage in it.
What do you mean by that? So for example,
I have that opinion.
So if we were on here and somebody was advocating for killing Biden or killing anybody, like going out in the streets and shooting down LGBT people or whatever the fuck, like you guys apparently think Trump's going to do. Like if we're just advocating for people to do this, saying these people are going to come, they're going to fuck your kids, they're going to make them all trans, they're going to cut off the dicks.
That's not stochastic terrorism.
No, well, hold on. That is a version of stochastic terrorism, because if there's no way to deal with those people legally, the natural solution is to go out and fight them violently, because that's the only option left open to you, right? And as Connor explained earlier, it seems like a lot of the rhetoric on the left, especially as it's become clear that Biden, his chances of winning are dwindling, has been that if Trump gets into power, he's gonna fuck up the countries and make it a fascist, like authoritarian dictatorship. The Supreme Court's made him a king. He wants to undo democracy. He wants to undo America, right? He wants to put all the immigrants in camps and all this kind of shit. So, like, if that's what you actually believe about the guy, one, I don't know why you guys would be sad that he was shot at. I'd assume you'd want him shot at more often. And two, how do you think that this kind of rhetoric doesn't push some people to go out and try to take shots at the guy?
So, two things. One, obviously, right? Just because I think someone is a threat doesn't mean I condone any and all actions against them. This any means necessary kind of rhetoric, kind of idea. It's on both the right and the left, to be clear, that something is a threat, and so that any means necessary to get rid of that threat is okay. I reject that wholeheartedly. I absolutely also have sympathy for even people who are my opponents, right? Who I dislike, who I think are bad people when bad things happen to them. I think that's a very human thing. It's not something I'm perfect at by any means, but it's something I strive for. It's an ideal that I look to go towards. When we talk about stochastic terrorism, what is the difference between journalism and stochastic terrorism? I don't think there's much of it when it comes down to it. There are a lot of, like, let's go to the Enron situation. I know it's a few years ago, right? But reporting came out that Enron was fraudulent, right? It had stolen a bunch of money. It was doing some crazy shit. Those people got death threats. Those people were under attack and things like that in a lot of ways. And again, does that mean that the journalists who were reporting on what they had done are responsible for the death threats they get? That I reject that wholeheartedly. Just like if someone really believes, right, that Trump is a threat to democracy, that he's doing all these things, what is the difference between journalism on that, or even trans issues, right? I'll take this from the other side, right? If you really believe that there are hospitals that are trans in the kids, okay, and you are trying to expose them and you are trying to give the facts of the matter as you see them, that's journalism, right? It could be bad journalism, it could be faulty journalism, but at the end of the day, there is no real difference here. So there's no real way to distinguish it. And so that's why I reject stochastic terrorism as a principle.
If someone genuinely seems to believe that Trump is like the reincarnation of Hitler, and if he gets into power, he's going to put all the trans people in camps and gas them or whatever. So you're saying that if they were to go out and say this, if they genuinely believed it, it would be totally fine because this is journalism. They're speaking their truth.
If it is never not okay to say something that you believe is true.
I see. So, and you don't think this would have any kind of impact on people who might want to go out and do something about that, right? Because if that is true, right? If it were true that he wanted to put trans people in camps or whatever, why wouldn't you want him dead? Why wouldn't they want him dead? If he is going to be the king, right? If the Supreme Court's made the president the king,
so many other
and if he gets into power,
with this and violence.
No, there isn't though. No, there isn't.
Though. Not with monarchs.
If the Supreme Court is basically making the president
the king, every monarch was
the president can literally put people in camps with no criminal liability whatsoever.
How many were not deposed?
The president can have anybody the fuck he wants killed. Why? There is no other option, right? It seems like the only option is to kill him.
There's plenty of other options.
Like what?
There's plenty of other
Vote him
options.
out.
He's immune though, right? He can send SEAL Team 6 to do whatever he wants. Right?
Okay, Ali, voting him out is an option. However, it's become very, and I think the rhetoric has ramped up since the debate because it seems like Biden's going to lose. It seems like he's falling apart, right? So I think people are becoming more desperate. It's more clear that Trump is going to be the president. Unfortunately, I don't like him either. So the rhetoric is ramped up, and you're at the point where you can't vote him out. He's going to fucking win. So that fails.
Listen,
not going to work.
I want to interject right here, just because I want to reaffirm this point. I'm with Doobie. Not only am I with Doobie, like this is why I was pissed off last week at Dan, at Destiny for entertaining him, at Pisco, because you're saying that he's an absolute monarch. He can do whatever he wants. He can claim any part of the authority as a part of the Constitution. He can literally send rape squads to your house and have you raped, and he can claim it's an official action and no other branch is going to hold him accountable for his actions. And under that kind of hyperbole, then violence is justified. And so here's the thing. If Dan or Pisco came back and they were like, yeah, we were a little bit heated, we were pissed off about it, we were being hyperbolic, we were joking, whatever, then I would take that in stride. But I don't think they were being hyperbolic at all. I think they believe that shit. And so if they believe that shit, then it does stand to reason that if you earnestly believe that we are 3 or 4 months away from an absolute monarch being able to do whatever he wants to do with the power, and the court is enabling him, and the legislative body is enabling him, then taking him out is a reasonable course of action.
Well, and it also follows if you think there was voter fraud, then it reasonably follows when Trump said, to suspend the laws and suspend the Constitution, it would also reasonably follow if you genuinely believe there was voter fraud.
Well, this is why this is a bad
believe it, but this is why you
just don't believe he genuinely believes it.
No, Trump could genuinely believe it, but then I would think that he's delusional, and then
just like Pisco's delusional too, and these other people are delusional because you don't agree with their takes on this.
I agree, but that's because the relevant thing that I said earlier, which is still true now, is the truth of the matter or the facts of the matter. Now, before Fabian interjects and says you can't possibly know all of the facts, that is true, but we can make reasonable assertions.
Well, let's talk about one thing that we hold on. Everybody here knows it's a lie, right? That Trump called Nazis very fine people at the Charlottesville protest. When Biden said that at the debate, he was lying, right?
Okay.
I'm asking if you
want
agree.
To say it's bad?
Well, no. I not only do I want you to say that it was lying, but like, let's imagine somebody. Let's say that was the tipping point. Let's say someone was like, "Oh shit, he's a fucking Nazi supporter. I got to stop the Nazi supporter," because I don't know if you know, Nazis aren't super popular among some political elements of this country, right? In fact, some people believe Nazi supporters are open game when it comes to violence, right? Punch a Nazi. Right? So Richard Spencer, everyone clapping when he got punched, right? People love violence against Nazis.
I want to follow your logic as quickly as possible, but then I also want to rebut it, okay? Or not rebut it. I want to expand it. So if you're saying that is stochastic rhetoric, it is intended to inflame the body politic in order to get them to take action against Trump. And if you believed everything that people said about Trump sincerely, then violence would potentially be justified. I can agree to all of that immediately.
Okay, and
no,
this
it wouldn't be justified.
Well, no, it wouldn't be. I know what you mean, though. It wouldn't necessarily be justified, but it would be explainable. Yeah. But I think here's what the disagreement we have is, where and look, I'm going to be super charitable to you because you said that like Biden was partially responsible, so like you are kind of rolling consistently with this stochastic kind of element. I reject it because I don't see an endpoint, right? Arguably, like,
well, I don't think you can hold it accountable legally. Just to clarify.
Okay, fair enough. But like, let me ask you this then. Does somebody who, let's say I open up a library and I hand out the Communist Manifesto and people start reading the Communist Manifesto and that turns into like a full communist revolution, which leads to a massive genocide, right? And how morally responsible am I for distributing the Communist Manifesto?
Well, I like to live in a liberal and libertarian society, so I don't think like reading philosophy makes you necessarily culpable for people taking action based off of that philosophy.
I hear you, but the Communist Manifesto, the Communist Manifesto, though, it's full of lies.
Before we move on,
at least 10% lactoid.
It's full of lies. It's full of misinformation, and it leads people to believe terrible things. It leads to violence. So this is what I'm trying to. The Communist Manifesto, we can go through it page by page, and I can show you all the lies.
Well, hold on. So. I don't want to get into a descriptive battle of the Communist Manifesto. I just want to flip this.
Wow, really?
Just to see if I can get you to acknowledge something. Yeah, like, dude, the first like 10 to 20 pages is like a description of capitalism. I literally thought that Marx was simping for capitalism for the first 5 pages because he was talking about its positive aspects.
He hooks you at the beginning.
Yeah. So anyways, but we can do that another night. So I conceded that I think that Biden has used stochastic rhetoric, and that makes him potentially culpable for violence that ensues as a result of the worldview that he's trying to engender in the body politic. Okay, I think that you can point to Trump and indict him almost immediately for the same thing, if not substantively worse. Because Biden is the worst president who's ever existed. He's destroyed the country. The border is wide open. Tens of millions of rapists are coming across our border every single day. They're going to destroy the country. They're polluting our blood.
Wait, counterpoints.
Tens of millions of
counterpoints. You get to say that. Hold on, you get to say that and be consistent. I'm not denying your right. Like, my whole thing about here is I think there's a level of inconsistency, right?
Do you understand?
Because you accept
that can engender in somebody to
hold on.
Well, this is
who's being inconsistent here.
So, well, hold on. The people, you guys. I guess.
At what point?
Hold on. Whoa. I'm not. Well, no, because I recall this. I don't think Wick has been inconsistent because beforehand, I recall Wick saying that he doesn't believe in the concept of stochastic terrorism and that he doesn't hold Trump responsible for the anti-trans rhetoric. And I'm guessing he also doesn't hold Trump responsible for the January 6th rhetoric in the exact same vein. We'll see if you're consistent on that, Wick. But that
relatable electors is the tipping point of that.
His rhetoric regarding the speech, is he responsible for that?
I don't know enough about it to say, but I can say the slate of electors with the context of everything like that. Yeah, it's getting pretty fishy.
Okay, Ashley Babbitt. Okay, Ashley Babbitt's death. Do you think that Trump is responsible at all for that, or the attack on the Capitol?
100%.
Okay, hold on. So you say no, Wick, which is why I think that you're being consistent in a way that I am. But I think Counterpoints is being consistent in the other way, right? He's willing to hold Biden and Trump responsible for their language.
But consistency only gets us so far. I don't care so much about consistency as I care about the truth.
Well, I think the truth. Well, hold on. We can get at
now. The truth should be relatively consistent.
Well, the truth is a conversation. Like what I'm trying to do is
truth is always consistent.
What I'm trying to do is like consistency test you. Now, the issue that I have with Counterpoints, although I acknowledge that you're consistent, so I don't think you're being bad faith. I think that the conclusion of your beliefs here is just untenable, right? There's a concept in law known as proximate cause, where theoretically, yes, like Hitler's parents are actually responsible for the Holocaust when you think about it, right? They fucked and made him, and then he went on and did it. So if they never fucked, it never would have happened. But for them fucking, the Holocaust never would have happened. But reasonably speaking, we're not holding Hitler's parents responsible because there was another actor involved, right? There was another mind that decided this was the right thing to do. This is what I want to do. And we can't possibly hold Hitler's parents responsible for that level of action. Sure. That is the mentality that I'm applying here. Trump and Biden are obviously not responsible for what happened to Trump or what happened on January 6th because there was other people who made those decisions in between, right? The proximate cause is not proximate. The line is not there.
Okay, hold on. But this is where I disagree with you, and I disagree with you fundamentally, and I want to articulate it. So we operate within a democratic republic where people actually speak words, and then they are vested with power that allows them to take action. And not only that, the way that they use their words can be can orient their people, their I don't know what you would call it, their demographics, their constituency. It orients their constituency to take certain actions. And so you're saying proximate cause, we can't blame Hitler's parents. But I'm saying in a democratic republic, you are only one step away. And so when it comes to like stochastic violence or whatever, I'm not saying that you should be able to criminally charge it. Hold on. You should not be able to criminally charge stochastic rhetoric, but you should absolutely be able to criticize the fuck out of it. And that's
criticize anything, sure.
Here's the problem with
this. Stop. Hold on. Before I need to deal with that fucking eye roll before I fucking have a stroke.
I'm gonna do it again.
Okay. No.
Doing the other direction.
The reason why
you're not a eye roller.
The reason why this is important is because it's not arbitrary and the consequences are not arbitrary. So acting like one person's stochastic rhetoric and outcomes is the same as another person's is fundamentally not fucking true.
Okay, so
you're right. Some lead to a gunshot.
I disagree with you real quick.
Drew.
Counterpoint.
Okay, after that,
some of those gunshots are deserved.
Corey, because he's been waiting.
Wait, what?
I'll make it quick. So counterpoints. In the same vein, right, though, if we're going by your logic, if something were to happen to Dan or to Pisco or to Destiny, right, we could say that your rhetoric today might have directly led to that in a stochastic manner because you pointed out how they have caused harm and are using language that is an actual threat. And so someone could hear that and say, oh my God, I have to stop them and go out and do the same thing. You see how this gets so
but here's the thing.
Drained so quickly.
Not only do I take that on, that my words could lead to negative outcomes for other people. But hold on. On top of that, I think it is the responsibility of any political ideologue in order to establish what they believe is the reasonable rules of engagement for their audience. What should their audience be willing to do based off of the rhetoric that's around? And I think the irresponsibility of our current country is the fact that we have political pundits who are incentivized to make the most hyperbolic, the most insane rhetoric possible. And then whenever somebody acts based off of the perspective that they articulate, they back up and they say, oh, it's all just words, man. I'm just an artist. I'm just a performer.
We can't just blame the politicians for this. You know why it worked? They do it.
It's bullshit.
Do you know why they do it though? It's because it works.
Because it
works. Not just advertising dollars. Votes. Right? We want that hyperbolic. We want this reciprocal radicalization to happen, right? I know it's not good, but it's a problem. Like I know it's a problem, but again,
this is why I hate democracy.
My problem was with the word responsibility.
You're almost there. You're almost there.
The problem I'm having with you is the word responsibility. Okay, with the word responsibility.
Fuck democracy.
Right? Because that's a problem. Because how do we hold people responsible? If you have a responsibility to something, people should be able to hold you responsible for it. And how do we hold people responsible? I don't think that there's any real metric
and
which
cultural
you can
pressure.
do so in a just and fair way that also doesn't lead to massive amounts of censorship, not just from the government, but self-censorship. And that's something I just fundamentally disagree.
No, cultural pressure. No. This is really important. This is why we have furries and Japanese VTubers and sexual degenerates and lolicons, is because you say that we are prohibited from using cultural pressure.
What side do they understand about this point?
I'm very passionate about this point, is because you're saying that we cannot use the tools given to us, which is cultural pressure. I fundamentally reject that. In a liberal and free society, cultural pressure is the only thing that civilians have as a weapon at their disposal to out.
But the problem is,
okay, I gotta move on. Corey, and then Ali, and then Doobie.
Look at the moderator favoring the counterpoints. Okay, I'll remember this, Prime.
Okay, and Gibbs. Okay,
and we need to get the Canadian perspective.
All right, go Lactoid, go for it. So yeah, Gibbs. I guess rewinding. So when I originally asked Lactoid about tone, he originally danced around, but until I finally asked him again, he said it was politically angry speech. Now, when it comes to Trump's speech on, would you characterize it in the same way? Like it's a politically angry speech, or it's neutral, has no effect whatsoever?
The vibes, Gib, the vibes.
Yeah, the vibes. If I was gonna do a 1 to 10, 5 being neutral, I'd probably put it a 6.5.
Okay. And so sure. And the characterization in terms of even though despite the fact, that he said, whatever, peacefully and patriotically, whatever, march to the Capitol, as long as that's included, that probably brings it down to your level, right? It's not an overall angry, inflammatory. It's not an incitement to violence. That's what you would say, right?
Yeah, I would say something along those lines. I mean, how many times have we had people give angry speeches and they not be calling the violence? Like Martin Luther King, he gives some angry speeches and then he calls for peaceful solutions in those, right? I mean, I'm not comparing Martin Luther King to Trump, but
any examples? I'm not going to pretend like I'm a historian on MLK.
I don't have a specific quote off the top
I'll wait
till
you get the doctorate on that. But
a million people marched. That's some violence on the grass, on the pavement, on the
Sure. So
your feet must have hurt.
So in that vein, you brought up earlier, the bullseye thing. How is that inflammatory then, by your metric and definition?
How is it inflammatory? Okay.
Yeah. Does a bullseye actually incite violence? What if it could just be just a dartboard?
Sure, I guess. I mean, it's interesting though.
Yeah. So
that's the exact terminology. Hold on. I mean, it's just interesting. I feel like this is kind of disingenuous what you're doing right here. Yeah, can we say it's like a archery board? Maybe it's a security board for us fat people. I don't know. It depends on what you consider the bullseye. But
you want to read into it, right?
Hold on. I'm just saying it is interesting that a week later, someone put a bullseye on Trump.
Oh yeah, I could say the same thing. It's just interesting, that.
Can you name a time Trump said that? Last time Trump was talking shit about Biden,
Corey,
and then Biden's talking about putting people in bullseyes. I mean, you can see which one of those rhetorics so mean. Oh, Trump's so mean. He said he'd beat him at golf. Biden's, over here talking about assassinating people in speeches.
Wait, Corey, finish the sentence you were just about to say.
Hold on.
Wait. I want Corey to finish the sentence because Corey was about to say. Because Corey was what Corey was about to say was, well, isn't it also reasonable that someone could look into Trump's speech and then come to the conclusion that they had a riot at the Capitol? Which
that's not exactly. I was going to in that line of questioning. I was going to frame it exactly like that.
Exactly like that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of if we were going to characterize it as an angry political speech, would it be fair to say that he's actually looking to make a crowd angry and politically angry?
Wait. This is perfect. You're right, Corey.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't this what the Democrats have been saying since it fucking happened? So if you can say that and you can use that as a basis to try Trump, was what Gibbs saying all that unreasonable?
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I mentioned that in my opening statement in terms of there is bad rhetoric. So that's why I'm asking. So you would agree?
Rhetoric comparable. Okay, it's not comparable rhetoric.
Yeah. How is it not conference?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
So then, do you agree? Do you agree with Gibbs' assessment that the bullseye thing that's like inflammatory?
That's a much higher escalation.
I don't agree with Gibbs.
Okay, what about
the conspiracy kind of line here?
What about taking him out back and beat you? I want to take him out back and beat him. Is that more inflammatory? I'm just by your own logic. Like what Trump said. What the exact quote Biden said on multiple speeches is, "I want to take Trump out back and beat him." So
yeah, that is a bad thing to say. You should not have said that.
Is that much more
it's not an exact quote because you have to add stuttering.
Oh, that's true. But is that more on that same scale you gave me? Is that more or less inflammatory than the Trump January 6th speech?
In terms of overall political ramifications and detriment to the country, I think overall tone of Trump's speech is arguably potentially worse.
Convenience.
I gotta move from this way. So we gotta go to Ali. All right. Gibbs had his hand up. Ghosty, she didn't have her hand up, but I want to hear what she has to say any which way. And then we're gonna go to Scott. All right.
Okay, so I'm one of those idiots who doesn't understand everything about politics and just reads the headline and watches you find people for my opinion, you know?
So a Democrat voter.
Yeah. There we go. I am a Democrat voter. I do like social policies, you know. If there was a cool enough Republican, I'd probably vote for him. You know, I vote based off the vibe, Corey.
Did you see the picture after he got shot? You don't think that's cool as fuck?
Which by the way, that shot sealed the win for him. So any shit talk about this, anyone saying anything, I don't think it's even negative.
That's why Theodore Roosevelt, obviously, he won as well, right after he got shot.
Theodore Roosevelt didn't have Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, my friend. All right,
and he still won. Okay, so Trump's gonna win doubly with this fucking photo.
But then he chose JD Vance, and that did away with that.
My question isn't really like, okay, I have a question more than the same, because for me, it's I love Jesus, but Christians are fucking annoying, and it would be the same thing with like love the politics, hate the people that follow the politics. So I don't think that the politicians are necessarily inciting violence when they're tweeting crazy shit. This is just nowadays what happens. Presidents tweet things, they say things, but the people that follow these guys are the idiots, and so they could take that and interpret it as an incitement of violence. So I don't see I guess I agree with Connor here, and I disagree with Lactoid. I think it's Lactoid, Gibbs, and Doobie, I'm assuming, that are on one side, because I don't even know who the fuck it is.
Yes, we're on the right wing side, they're the left wing side, yeah.
I'm just okay, but obviously what the people, what the presidents say, or especially the president, especially with someone like Trump, that the people that are reading his words, even if you throw the word peacefully in there, Lactoid, people are going to read between the lines.
That matters. You can't just leave that out.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all.
No. Because
hold on. To be clear, my first thought when I heard about the shooting was, "Fuck, they missed. Too bad." Right? That was my first thought. Right? I don't like Trump.
What the fuck?
So, to be clear,
I agree.
You guys are bad people. That wasn't my first thought. My first thought was, "Holy fuck, is he okay?"
Better luck next time.
Why?
He looked fine. He got right up.
No,
I didn't see the video. I heard he got shot, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
I don't care about things. He got right up, went golfing the next day. Everything was Gucci. Man took a hit and thought all he was thinking was, I won.
Nah, he's about to have a spiritual revelation. You get that close to it.
He dropped down. He was praying. He's like, I hope it's an Arab. It wasn't an Arab. It didn't work out in his fucking favor.
That we know.
Dude, I was going to say earlier, but I didn't get a chance to. Jihadism is so passe. You guys are so 2010s.
We're done for white terrorists, baby.
Decade, yeah.
White boy summer.
The second thought
Lactoid Wick, when you guys see the types of people, Lactoid, to your point, when you see the types of people on the left, Wick, when you see the types of people on the right, you don't think this shit is kind of expected? Like, to Gibbs's point, if I really, really, really hate Trump, and to Counterpoint's part, like I said, I've been hearing all fucking week that this guy's going to be the monarch, the king of America. I was like, hold up. How does that even fucking work? I don't know. I don't understand it. I'm not gonna read the fucking Constitution shit. I'm just gonna leave if it happens.
One page.
Well, sure. I'm still an idiot.
Words. Too bad I'm not reading.
You're saying Biden's rhetoric would encourage someone like you to do something, right?
No, not me
No,
specifically.
not you, but someone else like you. Someone else like you.
But yeah, I would be the general idiot in the world who's just sitting there who's like, well, fuck, something has to happen, right? And I just don't understand how you, like, I'm just listening to this. I don't get how you guys don't see how that could work. I don't think Biden called for a hit. But I think there's someone who listened to the fucking Peace Go Counterpoints discussion, and I want to say is probably one of the Counterpoints fans, right? Who's like, a little bit of the middle of the line. He's like, you know what? Fuck this. We're not having this.
I want to address this. Two
How
things.
do you not see that?
So first of all, we have no idea this guy's motivation at all, right?
Yeah, it was to kill Trump. We know it's
right. Yeah, he went.
It could have been a Groyper who was mad that Trump was eliminating the anti-LGBT language.
It was the Taliban
from,
let's be honest.
Right, that thing. We don't know. We don't have enough information to guess. We can speculate.
That's why Destiny was so mad.
I don't know, right? Like, well, the reason I know he wasn't a lefty is he actually got out and did something.
Yeah, but I'm saying, don't you think any rhetoric at all could? I'm saying rhetoric in general. I'm not blaming one particular person.
But here's the thing. Right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is maybe it's because I'm older, right? Is I remember a time when we didn't have everyone just because you thought the other person was a direct threat. You didn't have these extremist, violent reactions. Now, obviously, there's been other times in history where we have the 60s, we had the Reagan stuff, but that guy was just schizo, right? We had the Civil
Jane
War,
Fonda,
right?
maybe.
Yeah,
this 20-year-old wanted Jane Fonda.
That guy was just schizo.
Wait, do you think that you're speaking from a little bit of a place of privilege? Because it's like if this stuff is like a direct
from a place of privilege.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh yeah, privilege, and I'm an intelligent human being. Yes, that is my privilege. But I have more than 2 brain cells to rub to fucking together. That is a privilege that I hold. That my parents loved me growing up. That's a privilege that I hold. A lot of you did.
Privilege, Wick.
But
like how? Like you say like, oh, this is he's a direct threat to democracy. He's a direct threat to America. Well, shit, that matters to people. To some people, that's shit. This guy might kill me. This guy might kill my parents. This guy might put me in a fucking camp. And so
I cannot be held responsible for retards.
Well, no, it's not retarded. Hold on, wait.
It is retarded.
The opening.
Neither can Trump.
The opening of my statement. Opening statement was a joke. It was a joke, but also it's honestly the first thing I fucking thought when the guy got shot is, oh shit, I hope this guy isn't Arab, because that leads to huge problems for me. Like gigantic fucking issues in my day-to-day.
Yeah, but was it the Arab's words that would have done that, or was it his deeds that would have done that?
Well, I mean, a lot of the times it's the words and then the deeds. The deeds would have just added a cherry on top to the reasoning that people use, right? I already hear all the time that we're a threat to the West and so on and so forth. So this is just like it would be a kill shot for it. And so, like, I never said it was any one specific rhetoric, but rhetoric in general would have pushed this to happen. And I would assume it would be like the president's ideas and then the people discussing the ideas that enforce the shot.
Sociologic/elite is totally. Hold on, I just want to make a quick point. He not only is he totally right, Democrats would enforce it. So basically, like if an Arab Muslim shot Trump in the face, then immigration from the Middle East and North Africa would drop to 0. Travel to the Middle East and North Africa would be super vetted.
Yes.
Like you would be.
I don't disagree with that part.
They'd be fucked.
I don't disagree with that part. The part where I'm disagreeing with Ali here is that like the words make you responsible, or the words directly lead to these kinds of things. I think that's a slippery slope.
Why wouldn't you assume that? Why wouldn't you assume
what else? Wait, what else would be the reasoning for? If not the words that the person heard that informed their opinion, what would be the reasoning other than that? Than the words that they hear?
He still has agency
because the Muslim guy shot the president in the face. That's people would probably be upset about that.
I'm not talking about that
it's like the Norm Macdonald
part. Okay, I'm talking about the word part. So here's the thing: like, I can say a statement, or you can hear a statement, and that can be interpreted in so many ways. Am I responsible, right, for every single interpretation of my words? Absolutely not. I'm just not, right? There's no way we can be held responsible for every single permutation of bad faith, good faith, just neutral, right, interpretations of our words. So when Biden says something like, we got to put a bullseye on him, just because some retard on there may have heard, right, like, oh, that means I should kill him. Like, there's no way that we can use that to hold someone responsible, right? Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, not responsible, but you're the president
just like
of the United
some idiot who heard fight like hell. Like, that's obviously like not a reason why they should be held responsible if they break into the Capitol.
Right.
quick. So if somebody heard that, I don't know if all of you heard the conversation between Counterpoints and Pisco and Destiny and Dan, right? And the kind of stuff that they were saying.
I'm sorry.
They were. I think they flat out said that basically they made the president a king, do whatever the fuck he wants. He could assassinate American citizens, no liability for anything he fucking does, his total immunity. So if that's the case, and Trump is about to win the election because Biden's falling apart, why shouldn't someone kill him?
I would love an honest answer to that.
There isn't one.
Well, there is.
Like I've been
why
waiting
because
I'm waiting for Ghosty to go before
is
me.
Worse than the disease. The cure would be worse than the disease, just from a strictly pragmatic angle. You shoot Trump, right? Suddenly he's a martyr that you can't kill or deal with.
There is civil war.
He's dead,
right?
No, there's
and
civil
there
war.
is blood on the street.
Who would you fight? Hold on. People have said this, and I think it's one of the dumbest points I've ever heard.
Who they rally behind?
Who would you fight? So hold on. So some random progressive shoots Trump in the face. One, who takes over MAGA, who is as charismatic as him?
Vivek.
Let's go, Counterpoints. Let's go. How did World War I start?
Vivek takes it over and leads a armed insurrection.
I haven't gotten to the stupidest point yet. Let me get to the stupidest point. You said it's a civil war. Okay, civil war against
I didn't say that.
whom?
He did that.
No,
I said it.
Yeah. Civil war against whom? So you put on your plate carrier, you grab your AR-15, you jump in your Ford Ranger. Who are you going to fight?
You go to California and
that's not. Hold on, it's not going to be like, they're going to load up and just start shooting each other. What's going to happen is they're going to load up.
I mean, that's what civil war means.
No, not necessarily. Because that's not how the U.S. Civil War started. How the U.S. Civil War started is they loaded up and they took control of shit. And they said, fuck you, don't come over here. This is ours now. That's how Civil War starts. And that's how it would happen if Trump got shot.
So would MAGA... So would MAGA do that, or would the progressives do that?
I think that if Trump got shot, you would probably have like a bunch of MAGA chazzes.
MAGA
in
go
the South,
crazy.
probably. Yeah.
Okay, and the MAGA
You're acting
chazzes,
like the
what
Arab
territory
Spring
are
never
they
occurred.
seeing?
Right? Like,
I mean,
no, hold on. You're acting like...
What are they seeing?
Hold on. Like,
well, in Michigan, there's
local
government
for Ghosty to go, but
I mean, I think I'm next anyway.
you're...
Yeah, because I'm racist against Arabs because
I've been
waiting for like
not only does waiting for a while, but no, listen, you're being silly. You're being silly. Counterpoints.
The Arabs.
You're asking people.
No, Connor's totally right about this.
No, he's not. He's not totally right. Well,
no, hold on. You're being silly.
You're gonna go seize your local Whole Foods, you fucking freak. What the fuck are you talking about?
The local government.
No, you're memeing. You're memeing, and you're not. Hold on. You're memeing and not having actual conversation.
I'm memeing because the answer is stupid, but you can continue, and I'll try to take it seriously.
It's not stupid to suggest that when you have political rhetoric that is getting increasingly inflamed, when you have political factions that are increasingly getting further and further apart, where values are no longer shared predominantly, and political left and right just discuss the different ways to make those values happen through policy, but instead the values are totally opposite.
Dude,
something like that can be a powder keg that can cause small events that explode into larger events.
But so even if we took the small event, let's say Admiral Gibbs in Texas, they say all of Texas is like, we're MAGA country, Trump was our God King, you killed him, fuck you guys. We're seceding from the United States. We're protecting our own border. We're protecting our own border. I don't think that's the likely
first thing.
And then on top of that, hold on. And then on top of that, like, Gibbs has his Halo MA5 assault rifle, and he's standing post outside of the local fucking grocery store.
No, you're creating a narrative that you think is silly by stating a narrative that I've never stated. What I'm saying is shush. What you create a silly example to then say to strawman me.
So
what I'm saying is
silly example.
Yes,
I'll give you a not silly example.
Shut the fuck up. I'll get to it. It's very simple.
Racist.
When I gave it to you and you still then completely rebutted and refused to deal with what I said, and then said, "What if Texas altogether?" No, it's not philosophizing. I'm giving you the most likely scenario. Shut up. I see you trying to interrupt me again. The most likely scenario, if Trump were to be assassinated, is in the sense that a civil war could pop off, right? I'm not claiming that it would occur, but if it were to occur, it would likely be small factions of random bouts of violence, much like we had with like the BLM, but much worse. And then you having states having to crack down on that violence, and because of like the media and online things and videos of like cops beating up real American patriots, you then have more people getting involved, and before you know it, you have random acts of violence and balkanization. Like the fact that the government is stable is based upon the idea that most people prefer that stability and choose to engage with the state, at least in some degree. If everyone tomorrow just magically said, fuck the government, I'm not paying taxes, come and take them, right? The state would dissolve instantaneously. And so if enough violence occurs, if enough things occur, if enough actions and pop-outs occur, you might have eventually a state like Texas being like, okay, you guys, we're going to protect our own fucking border and be sovereign. Like, but that's not like the next thing that occurs, right? Like, we're talking about a powder keg and saying that this could have been something that would have blown up said powder keg.
So hold on, I want to jump in here. No, hold on, Counter. I want to jump in here and tell you why.
It's Gibbs' turn. It's Gibbs. We'll go to Ghosty. If Scott has anything else, we can add that in.
Yeah, it was other stuff I wanted to say. I was just like, that's silly.
And I'll also toss it to DB after that. So go ahead, Gibbs.
Yeah, I take umbrage with like pretty much everything Counter said with this like haha fugazi like scenario that he put out there where it's not going to happen. I've like thought long and hard about this, and I think we already came really close to a civil war in the manner that Scott described recently within U.S. history just now in the last year or two. And I don't think it was January 6th. I think it was whenever we had the border standoff. I don't think people realized how ready the Texas National Guard was to do it. And that's at a state level. That's a much bigger level than what I would describe in my next scenario, which I think is much more realistic. And this is a much more realistic scenario. You made the joke about me being the guy going down there and standing out in front of the, local Whole Foods and like with my, prop gun and scam people. But I'll give you a much more realistic scenario that I think is something. And it's the same basic scenario that actually started the Texas Revolution with the come and take it flag, which is where they fought a battle over a cannon. What I think a modern scenario would be is if you go look at these little state National Guard posts, I think it would be very easy for me to see a like group where they're armed by are guarded by like 3 to 5 people, and they're just basically an armory in the middle of nowhere. I could easily see, Trump taken out, and immediately a party like the Texas Secessionist Party, who's the third biggest party in the in Texas, and then has groups like the Sons of Texas Freedom and some other groups that are actually like borderline terrorist groups, and some have been labeled as potential terrorist groups. I could easily see them hitting an armory and then saying, come and take it, which is already a Texas rallying cry. And all of a sudden now you have people going, well, it's either these guys or the government we have, and the government we have already tried to stop it with criminal prosecution. Now they assassinated him, because once that happens, nobody's going to believe this wasn't whatever. You're going to have tons of people do this, and then they go and hit an armory. And if you don't think that's realistic, you're fucking lying to yourself. Like, that's something that I could easily see happening with just like people I know. Like, now I wouldn't do it because I'd rather be a political leader and not die on the front lines. But, I'm saying, hey, one can hope, that we get the Emperor Gibbs one day. But I'm saying that, like, it's not too far off, like, from a realistic scenario. And when y'all hand wave and go, ho, 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 it's the Republicans being all whatever. Most of Republican rhetoric, I feel like, when they say is more defensive, like aggression, right? It's like, hey, listen, you're coming for our lives, back off, like, et cetera, et cetera. Look, we do have to fight for our rights. Even Trump, after he gets shot, yells, fight, 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 right? He's trying to defend his freedom, versus what I would call what the left is doing. This is why I think what a lot of the left has been doing is disingenuous, I think it's aggressive, offensive aggression. And so they're sitting here saying things, put him in a bullseye, take him out back and beat him, punch a Nazi, like all these things. I mean, punch a Nazi's base, but like in general, all these things seem to be like, hey, we're going to go in there and say, hey, let's do these aggressive acts. We're going to have things like the BLM insurrection, and then we're not going to call that an insurrection when it caused more deaths, more money damage, and then
oh my God, okay.
And they burned down a police station.
Counterpoints, don't stop me. Hold on, counterpoints. I let you and Scott have yours. 30 minutes of fame, and I'm almost done here.
Maxine Waters incited a insurrection during the BLM riots.
I'm saying she is incited, and I'm sitting here going, like, looking at this stuff, and they have the audacity to sit here and try to compare this to the January 6th stuff and go, oh yeah, the Trump guys, they're just riling things up. When every time something Republican and angry and aggressive comes out as one of these speeches, there's no riots anywhere. There's no riots, and the only time there is riots is when the leftists do it, and generally it's way more damaging than what happened at the Capitol. And then we have a clear leftist donating to a POC PAC who was a registered Republican after he donates to a progressive PAC who's sitting here in a state where they told him to register and vote against Trump, shooting at the fucking former president. It's blatantly obvious to everybody. So when you sit here and say, "Oh, we're not going to sit here and have some kind of revolution,"
like a groyper to me. I'm not going to.
I'm just saying.
From physiology, definitely a groyper. We don't have enough.
But I'm not even a MAGA guy. I'm just saying.
You're talking about like you want an example of a riot on the right. That would be Charlottesville.
That would be the left instigating that riot as well. If you want to talk about Antifa there.
It wouldn't be the guys marching down saying Jews will not replace us.
Right? At a march that was planned, and they had like
there was no violence. To be honest, that might be a left-wing. That might be a left-wing protest.
Hold on, yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. Secondly, hold on, didn't they? Yeah, they are left-wing. Didn't they have?
That's just a BDS movement. That's all that was.
Yeah,
right?
But hold on. Didn't they have permits? And then like the lefty like counter protesters showed up.
There was no.
So one was a lawful protest, and one was not a lawful protest. Correct?
There was a counter protest. There were the.
That was not lawfully permitted to be there.
Who died? Who actually died there?
I'm sorry that the conservatives are better armed.
Hold on, was it what the people on the conservative side or on the liberal side? Who actually?
I mean, they were both liberals because the Nazis, like I said,
there was a woman who was hit by a car. There was a woman who was hit by a car. But Trump was again. People lied about that when it came to insinuating Trump said that he supported it.
And there wouldn't have been any violence if the lefty protesters didn't have permits to be there. They wouldn't show up.
To deal with you specific.
Relevant. Oh, okay. I've been waiting for 5 minutes. Can I go now?
No, to deal with you specifically, I looked it up again because I saw that speech with Trump. Right, I actually had watched it live when that happened. It might even done it on stream. I don't know. Like I forget the timeline here. But I did watch it live, and I remember the line. Right, very fine people on both sides. And
lose my shit.
Go ahead, do it. I found the transcript. I read the transcript. Very fine people on both sides. Later on, he does condemn. I remember, just like I remember previously.
How much later on?
Like in that paragraph.
In that paragraph, he says that he was not referring to the Nazis.
I can do it.
How convenient that got left out. How convenient that's left out.
So this is Trump, right? Quote. Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis, and you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down to them a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, are we going to take down statues of George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
Remember when they did that?
Are we gonna take down the statue? Good, that we should take down the statues. Fuck Thomas Jefferson and fuck George Washington. Are we gonna take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, are we going to take down his statue? So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. You had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, and the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had some troublemakers. And you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You got a lot of bad people in the other group too. That's the full paragraph.
Thank you for reading the full paragraph. It's completely agreeable. I read that whole thing.
What was the lie in that?
Well, yeah, where's the falsehood? Where's the objectionable content?
What was the falsehood then?
Why would that drive President Biden out of retirement because he has to save America from that horrible speech? Yeah, because that's what he said over and over again. That was the catalyst
totally, by the way. Condemns totally.
To make him come out. It's bullshit.
Condemn totally.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Condemns totally.
Yeah.
Right. So as you
Trump
read,
said the same thing.
It's Ghostie's turn finally.
He wasn't going to run again, but Biden was just such a bad president. He was going to destroy the country if he wins the election, so he just had to run again. And he even says in this whole little website that you sent me, Scott, I've been reading through it, and
this little website, his website.
Yes, okay, his website, better. It's not a plan. It is fear mongering. It's literally I'll take a couple quotes from it. President Trump's plan to shatter the deep state and return the power to the American people. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. The Biden administration has weaponized the FBI and DOJ to target conservatives, Christians, and their political enemies.
What's wrong with that?
The bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies.
What was that a response to? Do you remember? He made that as a response to something specific, which was they had opened a bunch of cases into specific Christian organizations. So, he's doing this in response to something they actually did. So I don't understand what your issue with. How can you call something fear-mongering when it's done in response to something else?
Because she's afraid from what she sees, and therefore.
Yeah, but is it fear-mongering if you say you're doing something because you did something because of something that happened? So if somebody walks in and shoots me, right, and so I go, hey, I don't like getting shot, I start wearing body armor, lo and behold, that's not fear-mongering.
It's because you're implying you're going to get shot regularly and putting that fear into the minds of people saying, hey, I'm going. You're implying these things.
I'm sorry, that's scope.
You're implying fear.
He's telling every single person that all
what he's going to do
are corrupt, that the entire government is corrupt, and this is what authoritarian dictators start by doing. They tell the people that they have no power and then they should be very scared, and they usually get elected. Dictators usually get elected. That's how it starts, and then they slowly start taking power away and changing the democracy.
So is it a plan or not a plan? Is it a plan with policy prescriptions involved, or is it not? Because that was your original claim. Now you're saying this is similar to what dictators do.
Yeah,
that's fine. I mean,
to completely.
I agree. Trump isn't a fucking anarchist. But is it a plan or is it not?
God damn it!
Yeah, it's a
no, just answer the question very quickly. Is it a plan with substantive policy in it?
Technically.
Positions.
There's no
Yes, there is a plan. I'll answer for her. She just listed a plan. No, don't let him get you like this. There is a plan. There is a plan. She mentioned one of them, and I said he enacted that originally, the 2020 executive order. He's going to do that because of something else that happened. So yeah, she absolutely listed a policy for him, Scott.
Discussing that, he has a 10-point plan right there in the link that I sent you. Fundamentally reform the FISA courts, overhaul federal departments and agencies, establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and abuse of power. I don't believe he's going to do any of this shit.
That would be based if he did.
Launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the media to create false narratives, pressing criminal charges when appropriate. Make every inspector general's office independent from the departments they oversee so that they do not become protectors of the deep state. Establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure that they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American public.
They've never spied on
the Trump administration effort to move parts of federal bureaucracy to Colorado.
I wonder
ban federal departments from taking jobs at companies that deal with ban federal bureaucrats. Ban federal bureaucrats. Ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and regulate, such as Big Pharma. Push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on Congress. How is that not a fucking plan? I don't like the plan, some of the things in the plan, but how is that not a plan?
Project 25 is not even endorsed by Trump.
Project 25 is so different. First of all, not only is it fundamentally different, but a lot of people are misrepresenting Project 2025 to mean something that it doesn't even mean. That's completely different than what Trump's running on. So for I know it's 900 pages, and in none of those 900 pages are you going to find it removing no-fault divorce, which is one of the most prominent claims about Project 2025.
Okay, but what you will find, right, is them using giving the president power to remove anyone that he wants.
That doesn't agree with
no, well, hold on. It's first of all,
he's been doing.
Wait. It's more complex than that. You are going to find
more complex.
It is. You can't simplify it like that. It's 900 pages, like you just said. There are some aspects of Project 2025.
There are a lot of things to 2025. There's a lot.
There is. We don't have time to go through all of it. That's totally fair. But like, we can agree that you shouldn't be saying. I'm not saying you're doing this, but a lot of people shouldn't be saying things that are completely false within Project 2025.
Sure,
For
no,
example,
you shouldn't lie.
The no fault divorce part. But here's like the weird part though. Project 2025 actually does have a pretty crazy fucking part of it that advocates for banning pornography. That there is something in Project 2025 about that. Trump has never said. Trump has. You sure Doobie does. Trump has never said anything about that. Trump has not endorsed that part. Agenda 47 has nothing about banning pornography. So, like that's just one example I can think of, right?
That's like the least of the problems I have.
That's the least of the problems. Banning pornography. You want to talk about effect on the average American life? That's going to affect it way more than anything else you can think of.
You talk about creating shooters, stochastic terrorism ain't got shit on banning pornography.
True.
We're going to have a lot of shooters. Let's be honest.
Okay. So, one, I'm gonna let Ghosty finish, but before that happens, actually, I got to read out a super chat, the one super chat we've had all night. Lawson Harrison, he says, much like his royal tanness, I feel on this issue there are fine people on both sides. Although I may disagree with some, I consider friends. You are all welcome in my safe post-election compound. Thank you so much for the $20.
Hell yeah, dude.
$20.
Does it got HESCO cages?
HESCO.
Like, we gotta fucking. Like, it's got to be real. You know what I mean? Like, can't be like the Chaz.
Like a Faraday cage, maybe.
No, HESCO cages are basically just big squares cages that you pack with dirt, and they're like the cheapest, best way to make something that is like immune to like artillery rounds or things like. They're easy to install things if you want to make like a compound. It was a joke that like it can actually be defensible.
Oh, thank you for teaching me that. Okay, so so thank you for that, and guys, consider supporting the channel. We could use help. Thank you, Lawson, for the kindness. Corey for resubbing previously, Ali as well. But Counterpoints being a real one with a 5 hot tier 1 gift subs. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. You also gifted 5 previously.
Guys, thank Progressive Victory.
Progressive Victory. That sweet Progressive Victory money. He and his family for months at a time already. Thank you for sharing a bit of that with us. And guys, it's a new month, and we're like halfway through it, and we barely got any subs. Consider supporting the channel. Guys, subs to the channel, gift bits or gift subs. If you have Amazon Prime, just Prime Gaming, consider using that free sub here. We'd love to have you. Ad-free viewing and our emotes and my eternal gratitude and love. So help us out. It'd be great. Counterpoints already give us 5. It'd be good to start us on a hype train. If we could get 2 others helping us out. Okay. And then and memberships on YouTube. Consider helping us out as well, or super chats. I will read them out. Now, okay. So just because Corey already has questions, right? It's true that Lawson did DM me specifically. Okay, I would have seen it otherwise. All right.
That's cheating. Cheating does not count. Stricken from the record.
Okay, thank you, Admiral Gibbs. Okay, we're giving a sub. It's awfully kind of you to us to Jersey, and if we get one more, we get ourselves on a nice hype train. So consider subs to the channel, gifting bits or gifting subs. Resubbing also counts. Usually Amazon Prime is Prime Gaming. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm gonna let Ghosty back in, and then we're going to go to Scott and Doobie.
Okay. Okay, can I get like a poll maybe from the panel? So who does think that the stochastic rhetoric is to blame for these acts of violence, like on January 6th, the presidential assassination attempt, Nancy Pelosi's husband being attacked with a hammer, things like this? Who thinks that this, and is it the rhetoric coming from the presidents, Biden and Trump, or from the actual people, like on Twitter?
It's the president talks, and the people make up their own opinions on what he said and go for it. That's at least my opinion.
Okay.
in Delaware when this happened. What was your first reaction?
My first reaction was, my God, look, there's so much violence now, the way we talk about it. I mean, the whole notion that there is this, there's no place at all for violence in politics in America, none, zero. And we've reached a point where it's become too commonplace, not assassinations, but to talk about it. For example, the January 6th, the attack on the Capitol. I got in this race early on in 2020 for the 2020 race. I wasn't going to run again because I lost my son. I didn't, and until I watched what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. Those folks coming out of the woods with torches, carrying swastikas, singing the same Nazi bile. It was accompanied by this Ku Klux Klan, and a young woman was killed. And I was a bystander. And the then president was asked, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. Not fine people on both sides. No excuse.
The hype train. Now's the time. Help us get this to level 3, to level 4, so I can keep doing this for all of you guys. Less than 3 minutes on the clock, so consider helping this out. All right, so back to
Doobie.
Doobie being a real one. Thank you.
Wait, we didn't finish with
Ghosty. I'll reserve my answer for
Hold
my
on, let him
time
make his money.
I think it's more complicated than
Like Gibbs.
One second.
Gibbs is saying.
One second.
Oh.
Doobie,
Sorry.
no problem. Doobie, thank you for the 20 hot tier 1 gift subs. Really, really kind. A real one. I do appreciate you, my man. He put us at a level 4
right?
training, 17% done. 83% left. 4.5 minutes on the clock. Now is a great time, anyone. If you haven't done it yet, consider supporting us. Hey, Ginger Roundmouth, I see you in chat. Nice to see you again. Haven't seen you in a long time. Hope you're doing well, friend. Okay, yeah, help us out. All right, so I'll get back to the content. But I might interrupt you again at some point in time. 4 minutes off the clock. Help us get to level 5. Ghosty.
So, I know. Okay, so Ali, that's your name, right? Yeah, gave his answer. Gibbs, you were blaming the shooting on the bullet. The target comment, but you don't think the tone from Trump's January 6th speech, including all of the context leading up to that, is to blame for the violence on January 6th. Is that correct?
No, I would say that there's probably rhetoric on both sides that would lead to. I'm not one of the ones saying that there is no whatever this bullshit, stochastic terrorism, fugazi shenanigans, whatever word we have for touching grass is not a thing. I definitely think words hurt, and I think words cause problems. Now, I disagree with the idea that Trump incited an insurrection or that it even was an insurrection when we look at the words in context. I feel like one is one thing. That's why I said one's a 6.57 when I answered Corey earlier, versus what Biden said I think is a 9. Like an 8.5, or if we take hey, I'm going to take him out back and beat it. I feel like the idea of I'm directly saying that I'm going to take some, if I'm going to give you an example, right? Say I said to Ali, I go, hey, I don't like that guy. I'm going to take you out back and beat you. That seems like quite an escalation from, man, I hate that guy. I'd rather we do something about him peacefully and patriotically, and maybe we get him removed from office or come back.
That's
I feel like those are totally different contexts. I mean, I don't know how you can argue that one's not an escalation over another. Are y'all saying it's not?
I mean, even his in total thing here is just purging all the corruption that are hurting the Americans and the Christians.
But if you actually believe the area is corrupt, why is that fear mongering? I feel like a lot of people think it's corrupt. I thought that the trial recently was a kangaroo court in the.
That's her point. Is it would incite fear and violence in those people if they agree that it is corrupt and he's enforcing that it's corrupt. That's what she's saying.
That's occurring on the Republican side, right? I've already listed y'all's best example is the Nazi leftists, getting mad and whatever, Charlottesville against Antifa. So we have two lefty groups fighting, and then y'all are going to say it's a conservative group. And then secondly, we're going to sit here, y'all look to January 6th, which barely qualifies as a riot in my opinion, and then say, oh, these are just
when you say shit like that, everyone else just rolls their fucking eyes.
I mean, maybe you roll your eyes. Hold on, when you roll your eyes, maybe you roll your eyes. Hold on. You might roll. Listen, you might roll your eyes because I know that you're in this little camp of all these people on the Twitch poll that are hyper fixated on bullshit. But that's the average person does rolls your eyes.
I want to stop you there. The reason why that's so unbelievably fucking stupid to me is because I can just YouTube January 6th riot footage, and I can see people.
Right, it's a riot. I called it a riot.
Smashing furniture, beating the fuck out of cops. You said you would barely call it.
Barely call it a riot.
And the building they were attacking was
that's
retarded. Too, right?
It's barely a riot. Like
less than less than a minute left on the hype train. We're at 25%. Thank you, Chris, for resubbing for 37 months. Thank you for sticking with the channel for so long.
Now, fuck you, sub Eucharist. Get back on the panel.
Yeah, I mean, and on top of that, like, how many
old
times
enough
have we
now.
told
I want
rioting?
Eucharist back.
Bruce, stop being a pussy.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we been told rioting is a appropriate form of protest? Right. This was like what I would call a small scale riot over people that were
riots are the soul of America.
Right. So sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that would argue that. So like, we're sitting here saying, "Oh, this is insurrection," which was, if it was, it's the smallest insurrection I've ever seen ever. We had 5 deaths, and like most of them were on one side. And I was sitting here hearing what you're saying, and then you go, "Oh, look at the videotapes of January 6th. Look at the videotapes of all the BLM protests or the Chaz stuff." I mean, like, all these videos are way more egregious, and nobody's calling that an insurrection on the left. Like your double standard. Everybody sees it. Everybody's worship it because it is. It's literally an insurrection when you take over land and hold it.
While we're here,
we hold it. Like they did in Seattle. I don't know how you can sit here and pretend it's not. Like,
can someone read the definition of insurrection real
and
quick
other
so we
cities
can know what we're arguing about?
Dude, there's a bunch of different definitions.
It's not.
Let's agree. We can agree on one.
Insurrection is not particularly legally defined. That's actually one of the issues when it comes towards like.
Can we make up a definition that we can agree on?
The Colorado decision had multiple fucking definitions.
Yeah, the Colorado decision.
I thought I was here to talk about Trump getting shot.
I need to say one thing. As of tonight, Biden did another interview with Lester Holt. I just saw a video on Twitter about it. After Trump was shot, and Biden reiterated the false claim that I just posted Snopes link, and Prime was so eager to read the whole thing out on stream. Biden just reiterated the false claim that Trump called Nazis very fine people again. He just said it. He said it again.
Okay,
he said it again.
Dementia.
After Trump got shot. Now, there's a level of charitability I'm willing to give to people, but like, how many more times does he have to say it? How many more violent incidents need to happen here? Like,
do you have the same energy when Trump lies?
Does Biden get attacked and then he just has a direct lie about Biden that's already been proven wrong multiple times to him immediately afterwards?
So
this was 2 days. What, 2 days? 2 days?
You agree that Biden's spreading this lie about Trump?
Yeah, I thought Biden was supposed to be the honest one, right? Biden's the dementia one, and Trump's the liar. Biden's the lying dementia patient. Okay.
They all lie to a certain extent, but let's not pretend that the amount of lies told by Biden, and I'll agree that he does lie sometimes. No, I'll copy
just
that.
did with
but
Lester Holt.
Measure the amount of lies from both candidates, and I guarantee you.
Yeah, but what kind of lies?
What kind of lies?
What kind of lies? After the guy got shot.
2 days after the guy got shot, he reiterated the same lie.
See how mad you guys are? You're all yelling because I'm right. You're all yelling because I'm right.
You gotta be a little fair.
Shut up. Everyone pull back, right? Scott, honestly, has been able to control himself and wait patiently.
Impressively.
He's been chilling, waiting.
He's been great lately.
I want to reward him and let him go. And then we're going to do beat, and we're going to Corey.
All right, so there's a couple of things I wrote down, right? So first thing I want to address, like, the bullseye thing. The bullseye situation is obviously bullshit, Admiral.
It's not bullshit.
It is. It's obviously bullshit because people did the same thing to a governor during her campaign when she had targets in her ad campaign, and I also had targets. Olive Branch, Admiral Gibbs. There's a direct corollary with the bullseye thing that the left did multiple times. The media, all over social media, etc. They lied about Donald Trump's usage of the term bloodbath. It was completely contextually talking about the automobile industry when he discussed it. It's a known term to deal with. There's a bloodbath on Wall Street. There's a bloodbath in the market, and everywhere they kept and Biden reiterated that lie again during the debate, saying that he was calling for a bloodbath, and when he wasn't calling for a bloodbath, what he said was, "If I wasn't elected,
name one Trump lie."
And he's trying.
Let's be reasonable. Okay, fair enough. Let's get that lie. Name one lie Trump has. Just see if you know one.
In the recent debate,
border ones.
He used the wrong number when he was discussing the immigration.
Not a lie, just wrong number.
Instead of using the numbers, no, it was a complete lie because he was over exaggerating to an extreme degree by lying about how many. And he stated that these were the immigrants that came into the country when they were not. But he didn't use any numbers from any reputable source about how many were in the country, but instead about how many came across the border. So he was counting all of the people that were. Wick, you just interrupted me discussing thing. Why? It's not your panel.
The reason I'm doing this, right? The reason I'm doing this is
I'm not asking for your reasoning.
Very important.
So
point, right?
here's the I was on Twitch on Twitter responding to something because I'm there's idiocy also being spouted in my fucking Twitter.
I guess I'll finish later.
But sure. The point I'm trying to make is that going back to Gibbs's point that there's a double standard here. So Trump exaggerated the immigration numbers. Trump exaggerated his economic numbers by far. He said we have the best economy on the planet. That was fact checked. Although best economy is also somewhat subjective. My understanding is that buying power actually went down during the Biden presidency. So if we're measuring economic power specifically by that, Trump might be right, but economists don't necessarily measure it based on that. So that could be a lie. I mean, yes, the man definitely exaggerates a whole bunch. But the point I'm trying to make is that yes, we have Trump, who everyone is saying is a liar, but at least Biden told the truth. Yes, his brains are pudding, but at least he tells the truth. And we're on which fucking iteration now of him specifically lying about calling Trump associated with Nazis the 2 days after he got shot?
Hold on.
I want to add one thing.
I want to address this directly. No. You're not opposing him. You're on his team. I would like to address
you can go. I mean, I only got 2 sentences things, so... Do you want to?
So I want to go. I haven't talked in a while. I've been very patient. Everybody else is fucking annoying and autistic as fuck. So Lactoid.
Not
my
true.
My standard for Biden is substantially low because of he keeps repeating that his kid had died in Iraq, right? And then the additional explanation is that he got cancer and then he died later, and he ties it to the burn pits in his mind. But his brain is soup. So he keeps saying that Bo died in Iraq. And so for me, I think that you can add up the totality of what Trump has done and associate him as a piece of shit who simps for dissident right-wing assholes, and then he can have that fucking talking point, but then his brain is fucking soup.
Are you ready?
He keeps saying it over and over again.
Wait, are you ready, counterpoints? Because earlier in this debate, you said either Trump is lying or he's delusional. And if he's delusional, like there's still a level of responsibility, or we still got to be careful about him. Well, same thing goes for Biden. If he's demented and thus he's delusional because he's demented, same concept. Same concept.
Guess what?
We still don't want to be president.
Guess what? Not only do I agree with you, I've been arguing that for the past week. Okay. Wick and I have already argued about that earlier in the fucking week. My sincere opinion is I think Biden should step down and let somebody else take the reins because I do not like I do not like capacities. It's
that's fair. That's fair. Right, I thought it was relevant to point out that tonight.
I want him to step down and have a competent executive. That's what I want.
I just want to point out the reason I thought it would be relevant to bring up is because I was very passionately ranting about this is a fucking lie. He said it during the debate. Everyone has been proving him wrong, but he still keeps saying it. And then I just found out on Lester Holt tonight, 2 days after Trump got shot, he is still peddling this lie. He's still doing it. The honest guy, honest Joe Biden.
I want to argue with that on that later on, but Scott, do you be Corey? And
okay,
Gibbs.
So taking it. I think this entire panel has gotten bogged down a little bit too much in tit for tat. Whataboutism. I think we can all agree that politicians are fucking liars and that they lie all the fucking time. And most of them are narcissists, or at least have trait with some level of narcissistic tendencies. Maybe Trump is a grandiose narcissist, while most presidents tend to be malignant narcissists. So his is so much more fucking patently obvious. But nevertheless, they're all fucking narcissistic liars. Except for maybe Jimmy Carter. Maybe. I don't like the guy's politics, but he might be the only one that wasn't a narc. But setting that aside, I think what's important here to discuss is when trying to understand who's at fault for statements. we're in this position where we're like, the waters are really muddied, because I think we all kind of recognize that there's some moral intuition that, like, when people say violent rhetoric, or when they say things that are untrue, or etc., that there should be some moral, like, responsibility there. And some of us are, maybe disagreeing on what level, etc. But what I want to say is, like, looking at this from a psychological perspective, is that, like, it is context dependent on so many other factors, whether or not it's true, what the media is saying, what current circumstances are, right? Like, we probably wouldn't have had BLM riots as bad as they were if we didn't have COVID lockdowns, because a lot of people were frustrated, locked indoors, maybe not being able to go to work, and those things kind of rile people up a little bit more. And potentially increase crime because of that, and people blame that all on defund the police, but it's probably not all defund the police. It's probably other factors too. What's important to recognize is that, there's this quote that I really like from Carl Jung, and I think Jordan Peterson used to say it a bunch too, which is that people don't have ideas, ideas have people. We have a process that has occurred in American, where our philosophy has been eroded, and our understanding, and our standards and our cultural enforcement, as Counterpoints pointed out, have been eroded. And because of that, I think we are seeing worsening and worsening conditions on both sides. There's been this argument from a couple people on the panel that, it's actually worse on the right than it is on the left. And while that hasn't been explicitly stated by people on the right here, I would say that you're probably thinking that too. You probably agree that it's worse on the left than it is on the right. Maybe because of the power in media. Maybe it's not worse, but because they have institutional power that the right doesn't have in culture, in art, in Hollywood, in music industry, etc., that maybe the effects are bigger. But one thing that we're not talking about is, like, how do we actually, like, tamp down on this? How do we actually stop this, right? We can argue all goddamn day about who's worse, etc. And I think what we have to recognize is that entertainment and media and social media have gotten progressively worse. And one of the big catalysts starts all the way back with the founder of neoconservatism, Buckley, William F. Buckley, when debating Vidal. And Vidal called him a crypto-fascist. And because he fought Nazis and killed Nazis, he lost his shit and said, I'll say that again, I'll sock you in the mouth. And on his deathbed, he said that was the greatest regret he ever had in his entire life, because it changed the media landscape in politics towards this entertainment and blood sports. Social media has also gotten worse and worse, especially in the last decade, about giving negative engagement from hating someone for a bad midweek take and boosting those people up. And I think if we really want to be serious about actually fixing these things, one of the things we have to tackle is understanding that we have to stop rewarding negative engagement. We need dislike buttons back. We need algorithmic fixes. We need
and now to make this not boring, we're going to yell and scream and yell and scream and yell and scream.
Okay. I agree with the we need dislike buttons back, but at the same time, I think this is the beast. I think this is freedom. I think this is democracy. This is what free people like to do.
Democracy is a contradiction.
I listened to you for a while. I would like the ability to speak. So this is actually like an improvement over Roman society, because in Roman society, they had the Forum where people would just get wasted and yell at each other. And they had the Colosseum where people would actually just murder each other for the entertainment of the masses. Now we have Twitch and YouTube politics, online politics.
We should bring that back.
And then we have American football and rugby. So actually we're civilized quite a bit compared to how we are 3,000 years ago. I think the only thing that we can do that makes sense in a free society is arm the next generation with a level of critical thinking and ability to understand media comprehension that they know that their attention is being hijacked. Inform them about what the algorithms are doing. Inform them that they're being intentionally enraged in order to get engagement.
Right.
Inform them that they're being sexually titillized in order to farm engagement.
That's certainly a part of it.
Here's the thing. And here's the thing. I think that I have a little bit of an advantage as an older person because I saw how the internet developed. So when I started seeing tits and everything, I was like, I'm being manipulated. And then when I started seeing blood and everything, I'm like, I'm being manipulated. So that immune system was natural to me. I think we need to educate the next generation on it.
Right. But like, when I look at my Twitter feed, right, because I debate and like yell at people and shitpost, right? My Twitter feed is full of communists and full of like full-blown Nazis or very, very close, right? And then when you look at the following count on, let's say, Twitter, I'm just using Twitter as probably the worst example of this, or X, whatever you want to call it, because of the short form being so short form. Like somebody like Jake Shields, for example, on the right, that is like just vague posting Nazi shit and like, denial of like Holocaust shit, right? And he has like, and when I just checked, he has like over 700,000 followers. Yeah, and then when you see people that are like fairly rational and like and substantive, and it's boring, right? It doesn't give us that same thing. And so we have to recognize that I think there are a lot of young people, potentially this shooter, who knows, right? That go online and all they see is extremely poor midwit arguments by radical extremists that are very violent. And those people are rewarded the most in social media consumption.
I would like to back you up here. I was blocked by the creator Sargon of Akkad because I told him I think that he is capitalizing off of black pill content. And he was so insulted, despite the fact that he has debated tons of the worst people on the fucking planet. He almost insta-blocked me. And so here's the thing, is there are people, I think iHypocrite is another one. And what they do
iHypocrite's gotten so bad, with this.
They just look at
they're like, are you noticing? And then it'll be like a picture, and then the whole comment is just like, it's Jews.
Yeah, Jews control everything. Black people are beating up white people. You're going to be erased racially. You're going to get murdered. And so as a result, I think you use the term midwit, which is one of my favorite terms as well, because it's people who think that they're smart, but they're fucking average. And as a result, they're fucking morons. They attract midwits who think that they're getting...
Hold on, to be fair.
Final part. They get a contrarian but truthful view of reality. They get a dangerous, sexy inside perspective on the way things really are. And so as a result, they're attracted to this thing and it becomes their community, and then they blackmail and they spiral.
Our brain is not developed or is not designed via evolution to be able to deal with the thoughts and opinions of hundreds of
millions. Nothing's designed by evolution, just FYI.
You know what I mean, right? Like, it wasn't advantageous. Our heuristics that developed because of evolutionary advantages weren't advantageous for us to do that. And so I even think on this panel, people that have a twisted view of the rhetoric on the opposing side and on both because of the fact that these algorithms push so much of that it makes it seem like it's more real, or that it's more of an existential threat, or that these ideas are more
that's not
than
fair.
They actually are.
We got Doobie, Corey, Gibbs. What I got from Scott's last words is that Muslim, Black people, and Latin people have de-evolved brains. That's exactly what I heard there. Let's go to Doobie.
I unfortunately
agree with
Connor and Scott said. But I think, and this is why I mentioned earlier, Wick, the anti-Semitism allegations that you made against me and others, because we were in support of people protesting at that synagogue. So I think that's another version of exactly what they were talking about, right? I think
we have to. You're stuck in your bubble. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'm the one in the bubble, of course.
Yep, of course.
So I think that What seems to be happening, I think, is we are acknowledging, or you guys are willing to acknowledge that this problem exists, but you're not willing to acknowledge your place in the problem, right? And how you contribute to it. You personally, you specifically, through your platform and this platform and other platforms, on Twitch, on YouTube, wherever, contribute to exactly this because it's content. And it's a fun time when people get angry and scream at each other and don't actually engage with any topics. They're just fucking shouting back and forth and getting angry at each other. Like you love that actually when that happens on your stream. Everybody loves it. Your audience loves it. But now because Destiny's throwing it, I love it too. Because Destiny's throwing a tantrum because his tantrum is actually reasonable if he believes half the shit he believes about Trump. You should be having the same tantrum. But because he's having the tantrum and you want to present yourself as the moral, the upright moral guy on the high horse, you're pretending you don't like that shit. You love that shit.
Well, you might love the content but still object to it morally.
I do have a conspiracy theory about this.
I love Lavloon content. I still object to Lavloon content.
There is a difference, a substantive difference between people yelling about things they like that don't matter, right? Like when I had Counterpoints on, and I had Radham on, and I had what was his name? Fabius Bile, or what was his name? I forget his name exactly. And they were all yelling at each other over 40K lore. Okay, Majin was there.
That doesn't matter.
Yelling at each other over 40K. Like, okay, sure, I love it then, but it does annoy me when I'm trying to have a serious conversation about a serious topic, and people decide to meme during it, and I've gotten annoyed about that several times. But here's the important bit, right? And this is something I talked about earlier before I came on the panel, but I think you just gave a great example of it. It's the assumption that anyone who disagrees with you or thinks a different way is doing so from a dishonest place, right? Whether they're getting paid for it, whether it's because of audience capture, whether it's because of echo chambers or these things. It's this idea that nobody can possibly disagree with me from an honest place. It has to be because of these perverse incentives, because of these very real things that happen, right? But it has to be for that reason. And I think that is preventing us from having any.
You mean like you did to me when I was talking about Trump and election fraud?
Oh my God!
I said it was impossible to have a reasonable, good faith position.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was talking about.
If I disagreed with you, it had to be 100% bad faith, and I'm lying.
Laid out the reason, right?
You're correctly acknowledging the problem, but you don't acknowledge that you do the same shit.
I am not a perfect man. I am sure that there have been places where I've been wrong, or I've been led by my audience to say things that, maybe I shouldn't have said. If you're asking me if I'm free from sin, obviously not. Obviously not. But if we're talking about things like, right, like, and notice, it's always accusing other people of this and never being like, well, I do this too, right? It's never that, right?
What do you mean?
Moral arbiters on your side, the other side is all dishonest.
You're the one of the moral high horse recently since the Destiny team.
Always happens.
And I do think it is intentionally strong, by the way. Like, obviously, you're the one of the moral high. Go ahead, Connor.
But no, hold on. Just real quick. Let me finish because this is important when it comes to the Destiny thing. If you think I was doing that for a virtue signal, that I wasn't completely disgusted at him mocking the death of an innocent person, I don't know what to tell you.
No, hold on.
Obviously,
that's not what I'm saying.
I was very upset.
That's not what I'm saying.
Obviously, I disagreed strongly with Destiny, and I have no incentive to disagree with Destiny. In fact, it's dangerous sometimes for me to disagree with.
Yeah,
Destiny
I agree with you
because he does give me a lot of clout and things like that. To be clear,
I'm not saying you're lying about not liking his language and what he's saying.
Okay, then what are you?
You're one of these weirdos who's like so opposed to death penalty. You'd be okay with like a serial child rapist being alive for some reason. I don't get it, but you're one of those people. I acknowledge it. Okay, I don't think you're lying about your position with Destiny's like rhetoric. What I do think is that if you believe even half the shit you said about Trump and other people on your stream have said about Trump, then Destiny's reaction, which is basically like mine, similar to mine. Oh shit, too bad they didn't kill him. Right, is the right reaction. You should want him dead. You should want other people to take a shot at him.
Cure is worse than the disease. If we open this up, where if we, no matter how bad the other guy is, right, who's a politician, if we open up political violence to be,
what if it was actually Hitler?
Beat the person.
What if it was actually Hitler who's gonna have fucking death camps? Like you would say, oh well, we can't kill Hitler because something bad might happen. Like really, like I think it's okay to acknowledge that some people are so bad that it's better off with them dead. The world is better with them dead.
But we don't have a crystal ball, and I can't know. So until the person starts to actually enact the things that I fear is going to happen, yes, it is immoral and improper to take a shot at them.
Well, hold on.
Until they're trying to make up the case.
I have an objection. I have an objection to this. I do have an objection to this. We know, and by the way, like I want a secure border, and I actually don't want mass immigration from the Middle East and North Africa. However, we know that there are refugees from the Middle East and North Africa who will be denied asylum into the United States, and as a result, they will either be homeless, dead, or destitute as a result of Trump's policies. Same thing with the border. We know that if he gives carte blanche to the states, which, by the way, I want a secure border, we know that there will be people who drown. We know there will be people who will drown in the Rio Grande as a result of physical barriers, okay?
Oh, well.
We know these things. How did you say that I didn't know that it was a thing, and then you said, "Oh well, you're a fucking moron"?
Because you're literally lying. Because if you're actually going to secure border,
I don't want to hear from you. You said that you did. You said that I didn't know, and then you agreed.
You're literally being dishonest.
You're a fucking moron.
You're literally being dishonest right now.
Shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear from you. I don't care about what you have to say.
That's fine, but you're still lying. It's okay.
So the point is,
I wouldn't want to hear.
I don't know what the fuck I'm lying about, but shut the fuck up. I don't care what you have to say.
Yeah.
So Wick, anyways, the point is that if you very much care about these people and you think that they're human beings who are entitled to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, immigration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then at that point, you don't have to be cheering on him getting killed or whatever, but at the same time, you can at least be ambivalent.
No, because we know the result of him getting shot and taken out in this way would be worse for everyone involved.
How?
Everyone involved. Okay.
How?
Before,
hold on. No. This gets back to a point that I wanted to make earlier, but I didn't get to finish. So earlier it was asserted that somebody would take philosophy. Somebody would take Trump's place, and then basically we would actually have insurrectionists. I'm not done. We would have insurrectionists inside the United States. I reject this. I don't think
it doesn't have to be insurrectionists inside the United States. Be a much worse thing.
Hold on. I'm not done.
I never said the Civil War shit. That was likely.
I know. I'm not done with my idea. I don't think there's anybody who is MAGA who has the charisma or cult of personality of Trump. I don't think anybody can replace him. And also, when it comes to pro-Trump MAGA revolutionaries or whatever, I think it would be like Shays Rebellion or the Bundy standoff. I think there would be one standoff, it would get stomped out, and then everybody would go home.
Okay, so the problem here.
Let's go. We got two more people, and they've been waiting quite patiently. I'm sorry, Lick, you're so beautiful.
You did this. This is twice. Two strikes, Prime. 2 strikes.
Let's go to Corey and then Gibbs. And we can jump back to you at the end to wrap it up, Lick. Okay.
Yeah, so Lactowell rewinding a bit by whatever half an hour, but you were angry, understandably, that Joe Biden repeated the lie about whatever very fine people 2 days after the attempt, and so I'm curious if you carry the same level of analysis as in when we bring up Trump, okay, and his, I would characterize them as lies of Biden got 80 million computer votes, okay. So do you, under your analysis, it's well, if Trump believed that, then it's not a lie. Is that potentially true also of Biden if the people around him, okay, which I think it's fair to say that he probably has speechwriters and people give him talking points because he probably can't talk for himself all that well. So that's potentially not a lie, correct?
You're right. It's potentially the fact. It could be the case that he's completely delusional. Yes. Okay. I already addressed this with counterpoints, right? It's
still
possible,
be a lie.
It's possible.
It would just be he didn't know.
But he wouldn't be a liar. He would just be brain dead. Now, this is the allegation when it comes to Trump. If Trump believed it, you could call him delusional. You could say that he's irresponsible for believing that. Sure. You can make that.
Well,
point.
Now, if you're a betting person,
Here. I think that there's more of a chance that Donald Trump believes that there was election fraud than I think that Joe Biden at this point has reason to believe that Donald Trump praised neo-Nazis and white nationalists at that speech, based on the fact that there is a single video, very easy to watch, in which he clearly doesn't. I mean, Prime was able to read off the whole fucking transcript of what he said in 20 seconds on a fucking Twitch stream, right? That was very easy. Meanwhile, allegations of voter fraud across an entire country, a little more complicated for a layperson to fully understand. I can believe Trump doubting that more than I can believe Biden, unless he's really gone. More than I can believe.
Sure, and you can believe that Trump still believes that today in 2024, as in he's presumably put in no effort to discern whether that's true or not, that the election was rigged or stolen from him.
Well, it's a question of how much effort needs to be put in, right? The amount of effort that you need to put in, especially if you're Trump and you believe this to be the case, you would have to investigate every single state. You'd have to look into how the votes are taken, allegations of the particular fraud.
And you would find investigations that weren't done,
and you'd find investigations that weren't done. There'd be all sorts of things. With this, it's a single fucking video that Snopes has that you can find the transcript of, and Snopes says it's a lie. And at the debate, Trump said it was a lie. Biden just said no, that's not a lie. And then again, in the context, by the way, the context here matters. I think we all agree. 2 days after Trump getting shot, he's on Lester Holt repeating this lie. This is wholly irresponsible.
I'm curious, how is the attempt on Trump relevant in terms of why does 2 days afterwards matter?
It matters a lot.
You're associating with Nazis.
What?
Yeah, but why you brought up? Well, it's just 2 days after.
Well, I want to go. I'm about to
we don't know the motive yet, but it could be some Christian Republican dude who doesn't want a Nazi in power, right? Like plenty of Republicans dislike Trump. It could be something like
that. I didn't catch everything that you said.
Okay, I don't care that Trump got shot in the face because I dislike Trump and I identify as a Republican. Yeah.
Base.
Jesus Christ, Connor. What the fuck?
He's right.
I care about a republic. I care about a republic. I want a republic.
No monarchy.
Trump is a delusional fucking liar.
I'd be happy
about that. Suspending the
Well, Biden is also a delusional liar, right? Based on Lester Holt?
I hope Biden falls down some stairs. I really do.
Well, no, hold on.
Stop.
There's a substantive difference.
Wait, I'm going to prove
during the
consistency.
presidency actually disobeyed SCOTUS and the other one didn't.
Yeah.
We have two records to look
not
at.
for a lack
and that would be Biden.
I agree with that. Biden has. I think he's proven to be more
twice.
I think Biden has proven to be more
with the OSHA regulations.
Yes. I think Biden has proven to be more unconstitutional in action. Maybe a little bit in rhetoric. I don't know if it's the same extent that Trump has in rhetoric, but definitely more in action. But I'm gonna prove my consistency right here.
Trying to steal the elections versus giving loans. I'm gonna balance these things a little differently.
Again, what the Supreme Court says is the law. I just want to be clear about that. And when they interpret the Constitution as meaning something, that matters. Now, I'm going to prove my consistency here, though. I do not root for Biden falling down a flight of stairs. And this is because you can call me Beta.
You wouldn't laugh?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't share the meme
if he wasn't hurt,
even if he was hurt,
absolutely. Yeah.
No. If he fell down a flight of stairs and he wasn't hurt, I'd be sharing that meme and I'd be laughing about it. If he actually gets hurt, absolutely not. I'm joking about that.
I'll stick up for Lactoid here. He's the kind of guy that means it, right? Who would not?
I think if he falls and he sprains his ankle,
be ecstatic over harm that comes to his political operative.
Dude, I don't think
it's ecstatic over harm to political operative. I think it's an old man falling and he's going to laugh at it. And especially if he's the president and he thinks he's delusional.
No. If an old man gets hurt falling, that's not funny.
We got to move on.
If he breaks a hip or something, that'd be terrifying.
We got to move on past this point. And we all know that if he bumped his shins, he would shatter his bones.
You could assassinate Biden with a punch. It's that bad.
Exactly.
You're laughing. You're laughing.
He caught me off guard. Joe Biden's fine.
Yeah, and if you found out that Biden got punched and he died, you'd laugh.
I would not laugh.
Can I just have my last thing?
If Biden fell down a flight of stairs and died, I would not be happy about that. I would not laugh. I would not wish for that. Doobie says that I would.
Great. Wonderful. I love you. Corey, do you have anything else to say quickly? And then we got to go to Gibbs. Okay, Gibbs, and then we'll wrap it up with Wick. Gibbs.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, I think there's issues with this. Like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of the defensive aggression from Republicans versus the offensive aggression. I don't know about this. This is one more reason I think Counterpoints here is not a Republican. I don't even like Trump. Not been a huge
Trump guy. Republican, you fucking moron.
Yeah, we can do this all again, but
Republican.
Anyway, so I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting here.
What's a republic?
Listen. I know this is your debate tactic, just trying to
trying to get you to no. I've already given you to describe the words that you use. That's
anyway. So I said, I'm sitting here going. No, you're just trying to get me off my point. We're I'm sitting here talking about how I don't think this is a Republican.
Well, you just said I wasn't a Republican.
You're not, because you're sitting there calling. I don't think any true Republican would sit here and call for the assassination of. I know you're
not. I believe in a fucking republic, and that's the reason why I'm voting against Trump.
All right,
absolutely,
cool. Anyway,
I believe in the Republican. So
I don't think
Gibbs. What's the definition of a republic?
I believe in our government that we have today. And I sit here and think, and I agree with Wick, using the political process to get people out. Now, I also think there's some facts to what Doobie said. If we thought this guy was literally Satan and someone truly believed that, I feel like it's within reason for them to do something along those lines. But when I'm looking at the left and I'm looking at the right, and I'm sitting here listening to this kind of language, right? I think there's levels, and there's different levels. I've watched a lot of Fox News, I've watched a lot of CNN, I watched a lot of MSNBC. But what's interesting is I watched the thing by the Australian news agency obviously, this week, and they showed a bunch of CNN articles after the assassination, and you wouldn't even know that Trump had gotten assassinated. It'd be like, oh, there was a scare at a rally. Trump falls and is picked up by service agents.
Oh, within the first 30 minutes, and then they changed the title later.
Just wild stuff, just wild stuff that's just like outrageous, right? And so when I sit here and I hear people on the left,
when Fabian was talking about midwits, he was talking about you.
Let me just finish. I mean, I sit here. I don't interrupt you. I don't interrupt you every single time. Like, just relax. I know that you're taking umbrage with like basic facts, but it's sitting here. They can point to this, and then people go and look at these things, and people go, "Oh, I'm going to draw a conclusion based off a pattern I see here." I mean, I think it's reasonable that Trump honestly believes a lot of what he says whenever he feels like, "Oh, I'm being persecuted by the government." So when he's sitting here saying, "Oh, I think there's corruption, I'm going to clean it up," like, I don't think that's fear-mongering language. I think he's obviously thinking, "Oh, I had a kangaroo court. I just got shot at now." I definitely think that he thinks there is a group that is working against him. And I think there are people that can look at this and come to that conclusion. And whenever we just hand raise them and go, "Oh, you're just like gift galloping. Oh, you're just sitting here like these guys are nitwits, they're idiots," and I'm just going to hand wave them away, when anybody with like half a brain can just look and goes, "This is suspicious," that's fucking ridiculous. And it's pretty clear to me that one side, even though they're sitting here going, "Wow, maybe we got some conspiracy theories," they're not the ones going and taking pot shots at the president, and they're not rioting generally. And I just don't know how you can sit here and say it's the same kind of levels of wording. Can you just like shut the fuck up?
No, I can't.
I mean, how about you defining like cuckoldry? Because that's what you're doing as a debate tactic right here. You're being a bitch and trying to go off on a tangent. That's like, everybody knows. Listen, everybody here knows. Listen, bro, you got your poli-sci degree from DeVry. We all know this. I don't want to sit here and hear anything about out of your big brain.
It was Valencia Community College.
That's impressive. That's impressive. I can wipe my ass with your degree, and it would be worth more. Like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Gibbs has 2 degrees.
Yeah, I know. I got a whole bunch. The whole city's sitting here, and he's got the audacity to go, "What is a republic? Define republic." But we know what
I'm not a Republican.
We're on a
I would be
politics.
interested in knowing if you know what the
not.
word
No,
means.
we sat here on a panel one time, and you told me you were a Teddy Roosevelt Republican, and that hasn't been a thing in fucking 80 years.
We gotta go. We gotta go to Wick, right?
You're not a Republican.
Sorry, we're gonna.
I know he's not. It's fucking. He's just live.
Wick, please.
Okay, so wind it back. Ignore everything that was just said, okay? Because I don't think it matters. Here's the deal, right? The reason that I am not okay, even if I do believe that Trump is a real and present danger to democracy and to our freedoms, is because to assassinate him, if he is killed, if he is murdered, that is an attack on democracy. That is a bullet in democracy's head, right? So I am not one to protect my house from being burnt down, to burn it down myself so that the other guys can't burn it down first. That's a fail state. It's a fail state. And if we have to resort to those kinds of measures to stop the democracy from dying, democracy's dead. Democracy can't flourish. It can't go anywhere, right? So if you believe that, right, if you're that doomer-pilled, first of all, you're wrong. You're just straight up wrong. There are many different ways we can deal with such an existential threat than violence. And second of all, even if, right,
democracy is violence.
If violence is opened up, right, if that Pandora's box is opened, then we have a lot more problems than simply whatever Trump is trying to do, right? Like, we have a lot more problems. It's not going to end well for you. It's not going to end well for me. It's not going to end well for anyone.
Well, Wick, to be fair,
blood will run in the streets. It will be a bad situation. And no, it doesn't have to be a full civil war, full insurrection, or anything like that. But just sectarian violence throughout the streets would rise to
you think that wouldn't happen if Trump was pushing Project 2025, like you said he was?
No, I don't think it would be as bad as if Trump was assassinated. No, I don't
think it'd be as bad if you were like removing civil rights protections, restricting, making it so that gay people can't adopt, rolling back marriage equality. All the crazy shit that people are saying about Project 2025.
Yes, people going down in the streets to assassinate.
You think that wouldn't cause fucking protests and riots and blood in the streets? I feel like some of you might kill him just over the porn ban, right? Like, being honest. So I just
reuse my joke, bitch.
I think that you're saying, oh well, he's going to dismantle democracy if he gets into power, but we can't keep him from getting into power because that also dismantles.
We can, but it's a lose-lose scenario. If we do so through violent means, right? If we do so through assassination, democracy's dead. It's a fail state.
That's silly.
How do you non-violently stop the dude from becoming king if
There's
that's
a lot
like
of different ways to do that. We have a lot of different fail-safes and institutions.
Democracy isn't one of them.
In America,
it is violence.
We can absolutely. Oh my God.
Well, once again, the idea. Once again, the
You're
idea
doing
for a
violence
normie,
to my brain cells right now. They're
for
being
a normie like me,
I'm gonna bring you up on charges from the ICJ for doing genocide to all my audience's brain cells right now.
I know.
Like, what are you, the
have difficulty
IDF,
with
right,
basic
of this channel,
philosophy.
going through and just bombing things
I have a quick update.
Yeah, wait,
and dumb. That's what you're doing right now. But let me finish my point here. My point at the end of the day is simply this: that we do not engage in political violence because we think Trump is a threat. And if you do that,
is political violence.
and if you hope for that, what you were hoping for is literally the destruction of America. And that's my final point. Go ahead.
Hold up, wait.
Okay.
If you think, once again, my question is, if you think the guy is,
go. Lactoid, see you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Lactoid TV. You can find me anywhere. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't got too much
Take care. Be well.
But
so once again, if the fear is like, once again, for the normie like me who watched the fucking discussion between Counterpoints and Pisco, and you were left thinking this guy's gonna become a monarch. You already think Biden's gonna lose. You don't think there's a vote anymore. You're telling me there's a bunch of fail safes.
All right. We're gonna raid on out into our friend Prime, so the action can continue. It's been super hectic. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We're gonna look. Here's the reality. We're getting close to election season, and this happens only once every 4 years. I hate to do it, and for those of you who like kind of the philosophical aspect of this channel, I totally sympathize. But things are going to get very political, just in terms. And I've always been political, but it's going to get very political, right? Capital P, political, if you know what I mean. This is going to be about the election. This is going to be about candidates, about things that are said, about hypocrisy, about policies, about, and I'm going to tie it back to, things like originalism, how the left doesn't even believe in rule of law, I'm going to assert. And I can explain that at a later date. A little bit of a taste, right? If you get judges and justices that don't assert that the law matters, right? That they come to their conclusions based on, the changing of the times as opposed to what the law was intended to mean. I don't think this is rule of law. I think this is opposite to rule of law. So, yeah, it'll be good shit. But yeah, thank you guys so much who gave me bit subs, and who were active in chat, all that good shit. Gave me a follow, love it, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.